Chapter 1526. Reveal his identity? How could Jiang Chen be afraid of him? Although this was Immortal Guy's city, and many people didn't want to expose their identities, it didn't matter to Jiang Chen at the moment. After all, he had already made up his mind. Besides, so what if he revealed his identity now? At most, he could hide his identity before he left. It was not a big deal. He is the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, Jiang Chen. At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan opened her mouth. After a few light coughs, she spoke her first sentence. Everyone was stunned. They did not expect the young man in front of them to be the famous Jiang Chen. However, what was this identity to them? The 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect had declined, and even the 10,000 mounts were suppressed in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. A mere young master was nothing. He is a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain's 9th mountain, Bai Xiaoyan continued. Just this identity? He has no right to stand here. Get out of here. I thought he was some big shot. I didn't expect him to be just a bastard who relied on 1,000 years and the promise of 2 realms to survive. Mystic 4 and the young master of Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu, looked at him with contempt. Even if Jiang Chen was the successor of the 9th mountain, they were not afraid of anything. Looks like I have to reveal my true identity, Jiang Chen said softly and looked at Bai Xiaoyan, indicating that she could continue. Jiang Chen was the pavilion leader of the Divine Secret Pavilion and the alliance leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain. If he lost face, the Divine Secret Pavilion would lose face too. Even the Overseas Immortal Mountain would lose face. Bai Xiaoyan did not want to lose face for the Divine Secret Pavilion. At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan's expression became serious, and she revealed her true appearance. However, she didn't mention Jiang Chen's identity. Instead, she introduced herself first. I'm from the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion, and the pavilion's former master is my father. My name is Bai Xiaoyan, and I'm a true immortal king. The moment these words were spoken, Mystic 4 and Kuyu's expressions changed. With Bai Xiaoyan's status, she was actually able to stand here. In fact, Bai Xiaoyan's status was only higher than theirs, not lower than theirs. No! Bai Xiaoyan is by Jiang Chen's side. Could it be? That's impossible, right? Many of them reacted quickly and looked at the stall owner, Mystic 4, and the rest with mocking looks on their faces. He, Jiang Chen, is now the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. Bai Xiaoyan paused for a moment, then asked, Is this status enough? What? The pavilion lord of the Secret Pavilion? It's him? Jiang Chen? At this moment, not to mention Mystic 4 and the rest, even the bystanders who were watching the show exclaimed in shock. Some people had indeed guessed that Jiang Chen was related to the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets, but they had never imagined that he was the current pavilion master of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets. This was like a sudden clap of thunder, shaking everyone's heads until they were dizzy. Especially Mystic 4, whose face was ashen. He knew the relationship between the 3 celestial kings and Jiang Chen. Now that Jiang Chen had become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, even if the 3 celestial kings disregarded the agreement between the 2 realms, it would be difficult for them to deal with Jiang Chen. Are these identities enough? If not, I still have other identities. Jiang Chen looked at the stall owner mockingly. Then, he looked at Mystic 4 and raised his eyebrows. Mystic 3 died in my hands. As for you, Mystic 4, I don't mind sending you down to meet him. No fighting is allowed in Immortal Ancient City. Mystic 4 panicked. He was not as strong as Mystic 3. If Jiang Chen wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. My Heavenly Secret Mountain is located in the East region, so I don't know how powerful the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion is. I only know that everyone in the world knows the strength of my Heavenly Secret Mountain. You're arrogant and think that you have status, but my Heavenly Secret Mountain's young master doesn't believe you. At that moment, Kuyu actually managed to muster up the courage to say those words. Moreover, he even told the stall owner that if Jiang Chen was here, he would leave. Between him and Jiang Chen, only one of them could stay here. This made the stall owner very difficult. For a moment he stammered, not knowing what to say. After all, although the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was famous, it was too mysterious in the eyes of the world. Many people did not know the foundation of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. But Heavenly Secret Mountain was different. Everyone knew that Heavenly Secret Mountain's foundation was very strong. They could establish themselves in the East region without relying on the 3 celestial kings. Even in the entire East region, if Heavenly Secret Mountain said something, the East region would be shaken. I don't dare to offend Heavenly Secret Mountain. Let the two of them fight each other, the stall owner thought to himself. He narrowed his eyes and did not say a word. At this moment, Bai Shaoyan was so angry that she laughed. She pointed at Jiang Chen and said, "He has another identity. I'm afraid that your Heavenly Secret Mountain's young master can't compare to him." "Oh? Tell me about it. It's not like my Heavenly Secret Mountain hasn't seen the world. In this world, other than the 3 celestial kings, who else has my Heavenly Secret Mountain been afraid of?" Kuyu raised his eyebrows. "He is the alliance leader of the overseas Immortal Mountains," Bai Shaoyan said softly. She did not describe much. With just this sentence, it made the surroundings quiet down. The overseas Immortal Mountains rarely came to the mainland and would not interfere with the matters of the mainland. Very few people knew about the foundation of the overseas Immortal Mountains, but they also knew that the overseas Immortal Mountains were very strong and united. Offending one of the overseas Immortal Mountains was equivalent to offending the entire overseas Immortal Mountains. However, the world had never heard of an alliance leader from the overseas Immortal Mountains. "Are you for real? The overseas Immortal Mountains are united to the outside world, but there are also internal disputes." "I've never heard of an alliance leader. The overseas Immortal Mountains have formed an alliance," someone whispered. The person who spoke had a very high status. Otherwise, they would not be qualified to discuss this matter. "It's up to you to believe it or not. If you don't believe it, you can go to the overseas Immortal Mountains and ask," Bai Shaoyan said. At this moment, Jiang Chen stepped out and came to the middle of the stall. He asked with a smile, "Now, am I qualified to stand here?" "Yes, yes, yes." The stall owner wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. This time, a big shot really came. Although his cultivation wasn't high, his identity was simply shocking. "What about him? Is he qualified to stand side by side with me?" Jiang Chen pointed at Kuyu, who had an ugly expression, and said jokingly, "He said before that only one of us can stand here." "You!" Kuyu's expression was gloomy. However, after thinking carefully, he also understood that with his identity as a young master, he was indeed not qualified to challenge Jiang Chen. Kuyu was also tactful. He took a step back and was about to leave. However, Jiang Chen shook his head and said, "I'm not interested in the things in the stall. If you want to take a look, you can have a look. I'm leaving." After saying that, Jiang Chen smiled and took a few steps back. He stood 3 meters away from the stall. This made the crowd confused. What was Jiang Chen doing? He revealed his identity but did not look at the stall owner's goods. "Kid, you said it yourself. Perhaps you don't know what this stall is selling today. Don't regret it," Kuyu said coldly. He returned to the front of the stall and said loudly, "I, Kuyu, want the Immortal Emperor's handwritten letter." Chapter 1527. The Immortal Emperor's letter was something left behind by the Immortal Emperor when he was cultivating. In layman's terms, it was a notebook. The letter recorded the Immortal Emperor's comprehension of the Great Tao. It was a type of Tao fruit, and also a type of inheritance. Ordinary people could not obtain such a thing. Even the descendants of the Immortal Emperor might not have such a thing. In the history of the immortal world, the Immortal Emperor's letter did not appear many times. However, every time it appeared, it would cause a storm, and even a storm of blood. And now, no one would have thought that the Immortal Emperor's letter would be for sale in an inconspicuous stall in Immortal Ancient City. "This Immortal Emperor's letter shouldn't be the only copy, right?" someone asked. The stall owner laughed and said, "Of course it's not the only copy. I've made a few copies, and I'll sell one every once in a while." "What? Could it be the person who sold the immortal emperor's letter in the previous era was also you?" someone exclaimed. "That's right." The stall owner smiled and said, "Everyone, I'll sell one copy every era. It's the same one, and those who are fated will get it." Then, he raised the immortal emperor's letter and said, "If no one is willing to reveal their identity, then the competitors for the immortal emperor's letter today will be Mystic 4 and Kriyu." Although the immortal emperor's letter was precious and could be said to be priceless, the stall owner's rules were very strange. He insisted that people reveal their identity before they were qualified to buy his things. And in Immortal Ancient City, the biggest taboo was to reveal one's identity. Without absolute strength and background, no one would easily reveal their identity, even if it was the immortal emperor's letter. Mystic 4 is Immortal King Xianjun's sword orthodoxy. He has Immortal King Xianjun behind him, so he has no fear of revealing his identity. Someone said. As for Heavenly Gem Mountain's Kriyu, it's said that Heavenly Gem Mountain now controls half of the eastern region, and their background is extremely strong. It's understandable that their young master revealed his identity. At this moment, many people were standing in the distance. Although they were all envious of the immortal emperor's letter, no one was willing to reveal their identity. Just like that, this priceless immortal emperor's letter was only contested by Mystic 4 and Kriyu. "Kriyu, the immortal emperor's letter is extraordinary. I want to bring it back to the immortal king," Mystic 4 said in a low voice. He wanted to use Xianjun's name to intimidate you. However, Kriyu simply ignored him. One must know that Heavenly Gem Mountain was now able to control half of the eastern region by relying on its own strength, and not any of the three immortal kings. Tianlang Mountain had the confidence. They were not afraid of the three immortal kings. "This letter belongs to the highest bidder," Kriyu said. "If you can afford it, I will naturally concede. Otherwise, I'll take the immortal emperor's letter with me." After saying that, Kriyu waved his hand. Immediately, a few people appeared in the distance, and Celestial King Qi exploded. Clearly, these were all powerhouses of Tianlang Mountain. "Don't fail to appreciate my kindness. I must take this immortal emperor's letter with me," Mystic 4 said coldly. Regarding this, Kriyu could not be bothered to argue with Mystic 4. He opened his mouth and said, "Stall owner, name a price." "You can open it yourselves," the stall owner said with a smile. "Currently, there are only 2 competitors." However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw a masked man walk over. When he passed by Jiangchen, his footsteps paused slightly, but he did not say anything and continued to walk forward. Jiangchen frowned. He felt a different aura from this masked man. This aura was very familiar, as if it came from his bloodline. "It can't be!" Jiangchen suddenly reacted and widened his eyes in disbelief. At this moment, the masked man had already arrived in front of the stall and threw out a token. He said, "VIP of Ganji's Bank, Chow has money." "Ganji's Bank? VIP?" The stall owner was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "You can bid." This made many people depressed. After all, this stall owner did not suspect the identity of this masked man. Just a token was enough? Of course, there were also people who knew what was going on. Ganji's Bank controlled half of the wealth of the immortal world. Anyone who could become a VIP of Ganji's Bank had an extraordinary identity. Moreover, with this token from Ganji's Bank, it was enough to not expose one's identity at all. "Chow has money! How damn rich are you?" Jiangchen rolled his eyes and cursed in his heart. At this moment, Jiangchen naturally guessed the identity of this man. Who else could it be other than his father who cheated his son? However, Jiangchen did not expect that Wanchun would actually come here, owe so much money to Ganji's Bank, and even become a VIP of Ganji's Bank? "No matter how much you bid, I will bid too. 3 billion. At this moment, Wanchun took out the Ganji's Bank's promissory note and said, "This promissory note can be exchanged for immortal jade at any Ganji's Bank. This, too, 3 billion? Exclamations could be heard all around. Even the hidden big shots were a little dumbfounded. What did 3 billion mean? That was a standard that many top forces could not reach. Even the sex of the three immortal kings might not be able to fork out 3 billion. At this moment, Kuyu was a little confused. This time, he came fully prepared and had nearly 1 billion immortal jade on him. But now, facing the 3 billion immortal jade that Wanqing threw out, he did not even have the strength to speak. Sir, it's not appropriate to snatch things from my heavenly gem mountain, right? Kuyu said coldly. What is heavenly gem mountain? If you have the ability, come find trouble with Ganji's bank. Otherwise, shut up. Wanqing was very arrogant and said, Remember my name, Chao has money. Then, he looked at the stall owner and asked, Can you give me this immortal emperor's letter? Of course. The stall owner was not a fool. He knew that no one could afford this price, so he immediately handed the immortal emperor's letter to Wanqing. Then, Wanqing waved his hand and left. Jiangchen was stunned, but he could understand why Wanqing owed so much money to Ganji's bank. It turned out that he already knew that Immortal Gai City was going to sell the immortal emperor's letter, and he came for it. But, you King owe money, and you want me, your son, to pay it back. Chase after him. Once we leave Immortal Gai City, we'll rob him. At this moment, the people brought by Mystic Four and Kuyu all walked up and followed behind Wanqing. They could not fight in Immortal Gai City, but outside, however, when they arrived outside Immortal Gai City, they found that Wanqing was fighting with another person. Jiangchen also followed. When he saw the person fighting with Wanqing, Jiangchen's face darkened. Wasn't that person the person Jiangchen used the chaotic energy to mark his body? Immeasurable old father! You won't even let go of the prey I value! Jiangchen cursed, but he could not snatch things from his father, so he could only curse a few times. Chapter 1528. Pavilion Master, look over there! There are two people fighting. Bai Xiaoyun naturally saw what Jiangchen saw. He pointed at the two people fighting not far away and said to Jiangchen, Big senior brother, didn't I tell you to call me junior brother in the future? Jiangchen said helplessly. On one hand, it was because Bai Xiaoyun had always treated him like a pavilion master, which made him feel a little awkward. On the other hand, it was because of the situation in front of him. The 10,000-mile Cloud Peng's true feather that he had set his eyes on had become his father's target. Should he snatch it or not? If he wanted to snatch it, he couldn't snatch it from his father's hands. But if he didn't snatch it, this true feather that could be sold for 1 billion would no longer belong to him. Thinking about the 3 billion that his father owed from the Ganji's bank, Jiangchen felt a headache coming on. He couldn't wait to cut off all ties with Wanqing. Little junior brother, that person seems to be the one who just bought the true feather for 800 million, and the other person is Chao Yuqian from the Ganji's bank. Could it be that they have some grudge and need to settle it here? Bai Xiaoyun didn't understand the situation and scratched his head in confusion. Although he was an immortal king, he spent most of his time in the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion. He didn't know much about the outside world. Maybe. Hearing his words, Jiangchen nodded helplessly. Needless to say, his father must have set his eyes on the true feather and wanted to snatch it. Seeing his father's elegant demeanor, Jiangchen whispered to Bai Xiaoyun, Big senior brother, look at the two hills over there. It's Mystic Four and that Heavenly Gem Mountain's young master Kuyu. They also want to make a move on the Immortal Emperor's letter and the true feather. Bai Xiaoyun smiled as he looked in the direction Jiangchen was pointing. The most comfortable time in one's life was watching a show. What's more, it wasn't just a normal bustle. The black-robed man who was able to bid 800 million, Chao Yuqian of the Eternal River Bank, Xian Jun's subordinate, Mystic Four, and Kuyu, the young lord of the Heavenly Gem Mountain. Each of them was not an ordinary person in this world, and if these four people were to fight, it was likely that all four forces would be implicated. They might even force the celestial kings of the various forces to make a move. Just as Bai Xiaoyun was about to find a comfortable place to sit down and watch the fun, Jiang Chen's words made him stunned. Eldest apprentice brother, when they are fighting, you should cooperate with me to get the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. With these two treasures, we should be able to get more than half of the 2.3 billion that we owe the Ganges villa, Jiang Chen said to Bai Xiaoyun, clenching his fists. His eyes were burning with passion. You want to snatch something from the hands of these 4 people? Bai Xiaoyun was somewhat astonished. That's right. Jiang Chen nodded vigorously. Now that he was burdened with his father's huge debt, he couldn't just watch as his father slipped away with the treasures right in front of his eyes. All right, I'll cooperate with you. Bai Xiaoyun knew what Jiang Chen was thinking and directly nodded in agreement. The moment he agreed, the relaxed expression on his face was instantly replaced by a serious one. Even though he had already reached the Celestial King realm, the 4 people in front of him were not easy to deal with. If he wanted to take the treasures from them, it wouldn't be so easy. While he was talking to Jiang Chen, Wan Qing and the black-robed man were still worrying about their opponents. Although Wan Qing's strength was obviously higher, to be able to come here alone and take out 800 million to buy the true feather, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Do it! At this time, a sharp voice rang out. Mystic 4, who had been hiding at the side, instantly rushed out after confirming that Wan Qing and the black-robed man were exhausted. The long sword in his hand was imbued with dense sword qi. In the instant he rushed out, the sword qi suddenly increased, enveloping his entire body and piercing out like a sharp sword. Mystic 4's speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Wan Qing. Seeing this scene, Jiang Chen could not help but shake his head. This Mystic 4 was indeed the direct disciple of Xian Jun. However, his father truly possessed the strength of a celestial king. Even if Xian Jun were to come here personally, it would not be an easy task to deal with his father, let alone a mere disciple of his. The truth was just as Jiang Chen had said. As Mystic 4 rushed forward, Wan Qing was momentarily distracted. Without any fancy moves, he sent out a palm strike towards him. This palm looked simple and unadorned, incomparably ordinary, but it concealed an extremely heavy cultivation base. Even if a true immortal king stood here, he wouldn't dare to underestimate it. Once he was struck, he would definitely end up with injuries. However, with Mystic 4's cultivation, it was impossible for him to determine Wan Qing's true strength. He thought that this person had already exhausted all his strength, and did not have any moves to deal with him. Pun! A loud sound rang out. The sword that Mystic 4 had transformed into collided heavily with Wan Qing's palm strike. As the sound rang out, Mystic 4 was sent flying like a bird that had been hit by a huge rock. Plop! Mystic 4's body crashed to the ground a dozen meters away, sending a cloud of dust into the air. How could this be? How could I be defeated so easily? Mystic 4 clutched his chest as blood slowly flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He had completely lost in the collision with Wan Qing just now. The powerful qi had even invaded his body, causing irreversible damage to his internal organs and meridians. The move he had used just now was the sword manipulation that Xian Jun had personally taught him. Not to mention those of the same cultivation level, even if he was facing an immortal king, he would still have the strength to fight. However, just now, he had used all the strength in his body to kill this person from the eternal river bank, but he had been severely injured by a casual palm strike. What a strong strength! Bai Xiaoyun frowned as she looked at the scene in front of her. This person's strength was probably much higher than her, and the black-robed man's cultivation was definitely not to be underestimated. It would be extremely difficult to snatch the treasure away from him. Senior brother, you're not afraid, are you? Compared to Bai Xiaoyun's shock, Jiang Chen was extremely calm. He knew his father's strength better than anyone else. Dealing with a person like Mystic 4 was as easy as swatting an ant. Not killing him with a single strike was already considered merciful. Cough, cough, what are you talking about? Bai Xiaoyun coughed awkwardly as her thoughts were seen through by Jiang Chen. You're now the pavilion lord of our Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, so I naturally have to obey your orders. Later, we'll find an opportunity to snatch the treasure away and escape immediately. There's no rush. Let's wait and see. Jiang Qin waved his hand casually. On the other side, after heavily injuring Mystic Four with a single strike, Wan Cheng's lips curled into a cold smile. What kind of random person dares to show off in front of me? This Wan Cheng palm of mine is enough to. As if realizing that he had exposed himself, Wan Cheng quickly shut his mouth. Chapter 1529. What are you talking about? The man in black frowned at Wan Cheng. It's nothing. Little friend, I advise you to obediently hand over the true feather in your hand. You may not be my opponent with your strength. Don't end up with nothing. Wan Cheng waved his hand and revealed a brilliant smile. Despicable! The man in black spat. He was prepared to be robbed if he dared to act alone here. With his quasi-immortal king cultivation, almost no one could take anything from him. But he never expected that the person who wanted to take the true feather from him was a real immortal king. A dignified immortal king. He actually dared to do such a sneaky thing. He even dared to shamelessly ask him to hand it over. The man in black had lived for decades, but he'd never seen such a shameless person. You can't say that. Wan Cheng waved his hand, looking righteous. I'm negotiating with you very amicably. If I were despicable, I would have attacked you long ago. Could it be that a dog attacked me just now? The man in black was speechless. The person in front of him didn't have the temperament of an immortal king at all. Instead, he was more like an unreasonable robber. You dare call me a dog? Wan Cheng looked as if his tail had been stepped on. While he was speaking, a majestic immortal chi was brewing in his body. He wanted to end this battle quickly and get rid of the person in front of him. Otherwise, once his true identity was exposed, he was afraid that someone would immediately come here to hunt him down. After all, he was sealed in Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Feeling the terrifying pressure, the man in black looked at Wan Cheng solemnly. He knew that this person's strength was definitely above his. If he wasn't careful, he could really be killed here. Whoosh! Almost instantly, a cloud of black fog appeared around the man in black. The man was hidden in the black fog, which was like a barrier. Those outside couldn't sense the situation inside at all. Even the man in black's aura was completely concealed. As the wind blew, the black fog gradually expanded and swallowed Wan Cheng in the blink of an eye. Darkness type. Seeing this strange scene, Jiang Qin secretly clenched his fists, as he recalled what Black God had said in the Black God sect. The darkness attribute was one of the most mysterious attributes in the Great Thousand World. Apart from those who had great luck or entered sects like the Black Deity sect to cultivate, ordinary people would not have the opportunity to come into contact with it. As for those who were able to use the darkness attribute, with the cultivation of a quasi-immortal king, there was practically no one who could suppress them among opponents of the same level. It was even to the extent that with the assistance of some immortal arts or cultivation techniques, it wasn't impossible for them to surpass levels and challenge immortal kings. Although Jiang Qin knew his father's strength, the darkness attribute was too strange. Who knew what would happen? TSK, a battle between an immortal king and a half-immortal king. I didn't expect to see such a scene in this small immortal ancient city. That half-immortal king has probably already brought out his trump card. I wonder how Eternal River Bank's Chao Yuqian will deal with this. Bai Xiaoyan propped up her chin and said with great interest. He was naturally happy to see this scene. If this black-clothed man and the Eternal River Bank's people could fight until both sides were injured, then it would be very easy to snatch the Immortal Emperor's letter and true feather from their hands. There shouldn't be a problem. Jiang Qin looked at the black fog and said after pondering for a moment. One had to know that no matter how strange and strong the darkness attribute was, the difference in strength was not something that could be made up for by attributes alone. Therefore, Jiang Qin was not too worried. Within the black fog, Wan Cheng stood with his hands behind his back. Even though he had already entered the other party's boundary, where all he could see was darkness and even his perception was sealed, he still did not panic. Instead, he waited for the other party to make a move. I've cultivated this black cloud boundary for less than half a year. Now I can kill an immortal king to celebrate. Your immortal emperor's letter will also become mine. If I have the chance to become the previous emperor in the future, I will properly thank you." The black-clothed man's voice seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible for Wan Qing to tell where the voice came from. "Don't tell me you think you can trap me with such a trashy boundary?" Wan Qing snorted coldly. "Little friend, I once advised you to hand over the letter and I could let you live. Now it seems that you don't cherish it. Don't talk nonsense, take this." A violent roar sounded. In the thick black fog, a thin needle of darkness attribute swept out and stabbed fiercely toward Wan Qing's back. As long as this thin needle with darkness attribute energy entered the body, the black-clothed man could control this energy to destroy the other party's meridians and internal organs. Even an immortal king would not be able to withstand such internal injuries. Somewhere, the black-clothed man looked at the situation in front of him and could not help but sneer. Although he was now an immortal king, there was still a certain distance between him and a real immortal king. If he could obtain the immortal emperor's letter and comprehend the truth in it, he would definitely be able to break through to the immortal king level and even have the opportunity to reach out and touch the immortal emperor. Just as he was sneering, the thin needle pierced Wan Qing's back. "I've stopped using such a stupid trick hundreds of years ago." Feeling something strange behind him, Wan Qing instantly turned around, stretched out his hand, and tightly grasped the thin needle with darkness attribute in his hand. "I've got you!" With the thin needle in his hand, Wan Qing closed his eyes and sensed it carefully. Immediately he determined the black-clothed man's specific location. His whole body shot out like an arrow from a bow, shuttling through the black fog. "Dark, forbidden wall!" Feeling the pressure coming toward him, the black-clothed man had no time to think. He instantly squatted down and pressed his hands on the ground. As soon as his voice fell, a pitch-black stone wall instantly rose from the ground. "You have a lot of tricks, but it's a pity that the gap in strength between you and me was too big." Holding the thin needle, Wan Qing could already sense the black-clothed man's specific location and knew what he was doing. Facing such a wall, he did not hesitate at all. His body mixed with a huge force, he smashed it fiercely. Crash! With a shattering sound, the stone wall was instantly destroyed. The black-clothed man standing behind the stone wall was in a daze when his neck was grabbed by Wan Qing's hand. As long as he exerted a little force, his life would be taken away. "How is this possible?" The black-clothed man's eyes widened, and his face revealed a look of deep horror, as if he had encountered something unbelievable and beyond his understanding. "With the gap in strength, everything is possible." Wan Qing smiled faintly. Wrong. Wan Qing was an immortal monarch, not an immortal king. Chapter 1530. This black fog barrier was the result of his research for more than 10 years. When he mastered it, his strength also climbed to the level of an immortal king. In this half a year, he had fought with many quasi-immortal kings. Once enveloped by the barrier, no matter what kind of attribute the quasi-immortal king was, no matter what kind of immortal technique or cultivation method they had, even if they were the disciples of a true immortal king, they could only be helpless and be slaughtered by him. But now, facing a mere immortal monarch, he thought that as long as he used the barrier, this person would definitely die in his hands. But now, what he couldn't understand was why the black fog barrier, which could even trap a quasi-immortal king, was easily found by an immortal monarch. And all of this had happened in just 3 minutes. "Are you very surprised?" Wan Qing looked at the black-clothed man in his hand. "What kind of strength do you have? How can a mere immortal monarch see through my barrier and even find my hiding place in the black fog?" The black-clothed man stared. Even if he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. You know that I have the strength of an immortal monarch, so I ask?" Wan Qing held his neck with one hand and touched his pocket with the other. He took out the 10,000 miles Cloud Rock's true feather and said indifferently, "I'll let you go today. Remember, if you meet me again, take out all the good things. Don't force me to make a move." After saying this, Wan Qing turned around and walked out of Immortal Ancient City. The black-clothed man was sitting on the ground, seriously injured. Mystic 4 was killed not far away. Many people who were attracted by the battle were shocked when they saw this scene. Logically speaking, there should be no suspense in the battle between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal monarch. Although there was still a big gap between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal king, the gap between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal monarch was like a chasm. But now, they saw with their own eyes that a quasi-immortal king was seriously injured by an immortal monarch in an extremely short period of time. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they definitely wouldn't believe it. But what they didn't know was that there were only two reasons why Wan Qing could get rid of this person. One was that even though this person was a quasi-immortal king, his strength was extremely superficial. It seemed as if he'd accumulated spirit pills and treasures of the heavens and the earth, and he wasn't as steady as Qingxi at all. The second reason was that Wan Qing was all too familiar with this kind of method of making moves in the dark. By holding the needle, he could sense the other party's location in reverse. This kind of move was really too old-fashioned. This person was able to defeat the black-clothed man with the strength of a celestial monarch, which is enough to prove that he has extraordinary strength. However, I believe that his physical strength is severely depleted and he can no longer use the celestial arts. If we can kill him now, the Celestial Emperor's letter and the true feather of the 10,000 miles Cloud Rock will be ours. Kuyu was still hiding behind the slope. He was not as impulsive as Mystic 4. As he watched Wan Qing leave, he turned around and whispered to his subordinates. "Yes, young master!" They all nodded in agreement. "Move out!" Kuyu's eyes gradually turned red. If he could obtain the Celestial Emperor's letter, he would be the future master of Tianlang Mountain. After Kuyu, there were quite a few people who chased out from Immortal Ancient's Doubt City. Looking at Wan Qing's departing figure, they felt extremely restless. Although the true feather was worth 800 million, it was not worth risking their lives for. However, the Celestial Emperor's letter was a priceless treasure. If a celestial monarch obtained it, he would definitely become an immortal king. If a celestial king obtained it, he would be able to test his strength against an immortal emperor. Even if that did not work out, if they obtained the Celestial Emperor's letter, they could definitely find an immortal king to join them. With the Celestial Emperor's letter in their hands, they would definitely be valued by the other party and become the last disciple of an immortal king. Therefore, this handbook was a necessity for almost everyone. Although they knew that their strength was lacking and were not a match for that celestial monarch, they still had to follow him and take a look. What if there was a chance? "Are we going?" Bai Xiaoyun stretched lazily and asked. "Let's go. Follow behind them." Jiang Qin nodded and got up to follow behind that group of people. However, his eyes were fixed on his father, who was about to disappear at the end of his line of sight. With his father's celestial monarch cultivation, facing these people was indeed a bit difficult. Jiang Qin originally should have directly brought his father out of here, and then had Bai Xiaoyun appear to snatch the Celestial Emperor's letter and true feather from him. However, after thinking about how he had been scammed by his father, and how he still had a debt of 2.3 billion, Jiang Qin prepared to give his father a punishment. He would let these people act first, and then save his father when it was about time. "I say, this small Immortal Ancient's Doubt City is actually filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Celestial monarchs and half-immortal kings are one thing, but Heavenly Gem Mountain's young master clearly has a few immortal kings accompanying him. Obtaining the Celestial Emperor's letter might not be that easy." Bai Xiaoyun put her hands in her pockets and followed behind Jiang Qin as she spoke. "That's right. But the Celestial Emperor's letter and true feather can be sold for at least 3 billion. This way, the Eternal River Bank's debt can be paid off." Jiang Qin raised his eyebrows and said, "Eldest senior brother, if you don't want to act, please lend me 2.3 billion to pay off the debt. I will definitely pay you back in the future." "Don't. I'm such a poor person. Let alone 2.3 billion, I can't even take out 100 million. Bai Xiaoyun waved her hands. 2.3 billion. Even if he sold himself, he still wouldn't be worth this price. Wan Cheng's footsteps gradually quickened. In Immortal Ancient's Doubt City, he could clearly feel the existence of several celestial kings. If he was targeted by them, he might really lose his life here. However, no matter how fast Wan Cheng was, how could he be faster than the celestial kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain? In the blink of an eye, the three of them had already blocked in front of Wan Cheng. Although they weren't true celestial kings, they were still half-immortal kings. With the combined strength of the three of them, even a true celestial king could give it a try. Heavenly Gem Mountain? Wan Cheng stopped. He knew that under the encirclement of three half-immortal kings, he couldn't escape. After all, even if he lost, he couldn't lose face. You're quite tactful. Being able to deal with half-immortal kings with your cultivation really shocked us. Now, hand over the Celestial Emperor's letter and I'll allow you to leave with true feather. The person at the front was Ku Jie. He pointed at Wan Cheng and said, I bought the Celestial Emperor's letter for 3 billion celestial jades. Moreover, no matter how strong your Tianlang Mountain is, you have to give the Eternal River Bank some face, right? Wan Cheng stared at him, prepared to fight at any time. Don't use the Eternal River Bank to pressure people, Ku Jie shouted. Chapter 1531. Does Tianlang Mountain dare to attack the Ganges Bank? Wan Cheng clasped the Immortal Emperor's letter tightly in his hands. Facing three immortal kings, he had almost no chance of winning. The only thing he could do was to find the right time to escape. However, with his immortal lord cultivation, it was very difficult to escape from the immortal kings. Chao Yuqian, hand over the Immortal Emperor's letter in your hands. On account of the Ganges Bank you can leave here. Otherwise, even if you can leave, I will tell Immortal King Xian Jun that you killed Mystic 4 and let him deal with you. With the support of the immortal kings in the sect, Kuyu walked directly in front of Wan Cheng. How despicable! Hearing his words, Wan Cheng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If Xian Jun knew that Mystic 4 died in his hands, he would probably have a hard time in the future. Have you thought it through? Kuyu clenched his fists. As long as the young master gave the order, he would directly attack the immortal lord in front of him. With his strength, he could kill this person in an instant. I am a VIP of the Ganges Bank. If you dare to attack me, the Ganges Bank will definitely not let you off. Wan Cheng gritted his teeth. He had been eyeing the Immortal Emperor's letter for a long time and even borrowed 3 billion immortal jades from the Ganges Bank in the name of his son. If he handed it over just like that, wouldn't he lose so much that he wouldn't even have his underwear left? Don't waste time with him. Seniors, make your move! Kuyu frowned and said when he saw more and more people surrounding them. He didn't want to attract too much attention. Chao Yuqian was right. Even if Tianlang Mountain was the top sect in the East region, there was still a big gap between them and the Ganges Bank. It would be better if they ended the battle quickly today. If the news here spread to the Ganges Bank and the people of Tianlang Mountain dared to attack a VIP of the bank, they would definitely attract trouble. At that time, even the East region might be affected to a certain extent, and Tianlang Mountain would be even more unlucky. But thinking about the Immortal Emperor's letter, Kuyu made up his mind. As soon as he finished his words, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. The three immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain instantly surrounded Wan Cheng. With every movement, the aura of a quasi-immortal king was vividly displayed. Wan Cheng was trapped in the middle, facing three immortal kings at the same time. He didn't have any good ideas. As long as the other party wanted to attack, he wouldn't even have a chance to fight back. When the onlookers saw this scene, they all dispelled the idea in their hearts. They came out because they wanted to try their luck and see if they could get the Celestial Emperor's letter. But now that the three celestial kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain attacked at the same time, no one present was a match for them. As for the Immortal Emperor's letter, it naturally belonged to Heavenly Gem Mountain. And if he still dared to blindly fight for it, then he would be courting death. TSK, I never thought that I would be able to see three immortal kings attacking an immortal monarch in my lifetime. This person is really unlucky. As the saying goes, a man's wealth is his own ruin. If this immortal monarch is willing to hand over the immortal emperor's letter, he might be able to keep his life. I think it'll be difficult. Just now, outside immortal ancient city, this person personally killed immortal King Xianjun's sword child. Who is Xianjun? He's one of the 3 great immortal kings. Many people were discussing this matter. To them, they had already completely dispelled the idea of getting the immortal emperor's letter. The reason why they still stayed here was to see what kind of strength an immortal king had. After all, most people would never see an immortal king in their entire lives. Eldest senior brother, it's time for you to make a move. Jiangchen stood not far away. When he saw the people of Heavenly Gem Mountain surrounding his father, he hurriedly whispered to Bai Xiaoyun. Although Wan Qing was good at deceiving his son, he was still his biological father after all. How could he watch as he was killed? Let's wait for them to deal with that immortal monarch. With my strength, I can still snatch something from the hands of 3 immortal kings, Bai Xiaoyun hurriedly explained. I hope you can save that immortal monarch. Jiangchen shook his head. Oh? You know him? Bai Xiaoyun glanced sideways. I don't know him. I just don't want to see Heavenly Gem Mountain start a massacre. Jiangchen didn't know how to explain. He couldn't reveal Wan Cheng's true identity, so he could only be vague. Fortunately, Jiangchen was the Pavilion Lord of Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, so Bai Xiaoyun didn't hesitate and chose to follow Jiangchen's orders. Sigh, looks like I'm going to die here today. Not far away, Wan Qing tightly held the letter and sighed with his eyes closed. He didn't expect so many immortal kings to appear in this small immortal ancient city. If he didn't have any thoughts about Jinyu, he might have already left. However, the only thing he could do now was to raise his head and wait for death. Seeing that Wan Cheng had given up on resisting, Ku Jie sneered. He raised his hand and a gust of wind gathered in his palm, creating a sharp, ear-piercing sound. A moment later, this gust of wind was gently pushed out by him. An immortal monarch had no chance of escaping from their encirclement, so he just casually threw out this palm. He didn't even look at Wan Cheng. After all, in his opinion, this person was already dead. Buzz! Just as he pushed out the gust of wind, there was a low sound of wind breaking. A white figure suddenly flashed between the 3 of them, almost ignoring the barrier created by the communication between their auras. You can leave now. You can't hurt this person, and you won't have the chance to get the letter. Bai Xiaoyun flicked her sleeve and cancelled out Ku Jie's gust of wind. At the same time, she stood in front of Wan Cheng with her hands behind her back. Little brother, what are you doing? Wan Cheng had already closed his eyes and waited for death. Now that he saw someone suddenly appear in front of him, he was shocked. Someone doesn't want you to die here and asked me to save you. Bai Xiaoyun didn't even look at Wan Cheng and said indifferently. Who? Wan Cheng was stunned. In this great thousand world, there were hundreds of people who wanted to kill him, but there was probably no one who wanted to save him. Your divine secret pavilion dares to interfere with our Heavenly Gem Mountain's matters. Seeing Bai Xiaoyun appear, Ku Yu's expression instantly changed. The pavilion master said to let you return to where you came from. Bai Xiaoyun glanced at them indifferently. Although the 3 of them were immortal kings from Heavenly Gem Mountain, they were all quasi-immortal kings and had a huge gap in strength. If they really attacked, the 3 of them might not be able to hurt her even if they joined forces. Isn't this a bit too much? Ku Yu narrowed his eyes. No matter what, he was the young master of Heavenly Gem Mountain. When he was in the eastern region, almost everyone had to give him face. Chapter 1532. And now, in this tiny immortal ancient city, his plans were actually ruined by someone from the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets. Although his sect was a bit weaker than the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets and the Alliance of Immortal Mountains, it was not a soft persimmon that could be trampled on by anyone. Moreover, Bai Xiaoyun's words ignited the anger in Ku Yu's chest. You can't hurt this person today, and you can't take the Immortal Emperor's letter away. I've already said it, so you can do whatever you want. But before you act, You can consider whether your Heavenly Gem Mountain is strong enough to go against the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Bai Xiaoyun did not put them in her eyes at all, and her words did not leave them any face. Ku Jie stared at Bai Xiaoyun for a while. He knew that with the strength of the three quasi-immortal kings on his side, they were not a match for her, not to mention the Pavilion Lord of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Even if the Pavilion Lord was only at the first level of the true immortal realm, being able to become a Pavilion Lord with such a cultivation was enough to prove that this person had outstanding ability. Young Master, I think we should take a step back today. Ku Jie took a step back and whispered to Kuyu. What do you mean? Kuyu frowned, clearly unwilling to agree. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion's Bai Xiaoyun is a true immortal king. With our strength, we might not be a match for her. Moreover, offending the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance at the same time is not a wise move. Although the Immortal Emperor's letter is important, there's no need to cause so much trouble for the Eastern region and Heavenly Gem Mountain. Ku Jie continued to whisper. Impossible! Look at how many people are watching us. If we retreat like this, won't the reputation of Heavenly Gem Mountain and the Eastern region be ruined by us? No matter how strong the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance are, they can't reach into the Eastern region. Thinking of the Immortal Emperor's letter and Bai Xiaoyun's disdainful words, Kuyu would not give up at all. His mind was filled with thoughts of getting rid of the Immortal King in front of him. Young Master, Ku Jie hurriedly advised when he saw Kuyu's insistence. I've already made up my mind. You three quasi-immortal kings can't even deal with one immortal king. If we lose here, we won't have the face to return to the Eastern region. Kuyu didn't listen to Ku Jie's words at all. All right, since young master has decided, we will do our best. Ku Jie nodded helplessly in agreement. Who asked Kuyu to be the young lord of their Heavenly Gem Mountain? If they didn't follow his orders, even if they had the cultivation of a quasi-immortal king, they would still be punished by the sect master when they returned to Heavenly Gem Mountain. Moreover, even though the one before them was a true immortal king, the three brothers had a connection with each other, and the immortal techniques they cultivated were also close. If they worked together, they really might not necessarily be defeated. Bai Xiaoyun looked at them quietly. White Immortal King, our young master has decided on the Immortal Emperor's letter. Ku Jie took a step forward. As he spoke, an even more majestic true qi emerged from his body. As the other two also released their cultivation bases, the three streams of primary energy almost merged into one. And above the three of them, there was a wolf head formed completely from immortal energy. The three wolves were all staring at Bai Xiaoyun. Seeing this, many people burst into an uproar. This was the first time they had seen immortal kings working together, and this majestic aura gradually spread out, pressuring them to the point that they couldn't breathe at all. There were even many people whose legs were trembling slightly. If they hadn't forcefully held on, they would have directly knelt on the ground under this pressure. Is this all the strength you can use? Bai Xiaoyun asked indifferently as she raised her head to look at the wolf head above her. That's right, this is all the strength we can use. White Immortal King, 3 years ago, there was also an immortal king who came to our Heavenly Gem Mountain to cause trouble. The three of us used this formation to severely injure him and throw him down the mountain. It's still not too late for you to regret it now. Ku Jie clenched his fists tightly, and the immortal energy in his body spread out. Facing a true immortal king, if he didn't use his trump card, he probably wouldn't even know how he died. What a pity, the pavilion master told me to come and save him. Bai Xiaoyun glanced at Jiang Qin in the distance and shrugged. Then there's no other way. White Immortal King, don't blame us for being too ruthless. Ku Jie took a deep breath. As soon as he finished speaking, under his mind control, the wolf head above his head instantly opened its mouth and bit fiercely at Bai Xiaoyun's head. What he said just now was true. This three wolves' immortal devouring formation had indeed severely injured a true immortal king. Facing the pressure coming at her, Bai Xiaoyun didn't dare to underestimate it. When the wolf head was about to touch her, she quickly retreated. At the same time, a wave of energy flashed in her hand, and immortal energy instantly gushed out. Boom! An invisible wave spread out. All the onlookers at the scene were forced to take 2 steps back from the impact. Some of the weaker ones even spat out a mouthful of blood, and their entire aura weakened. Is this the strength of a true immortal king? Many people looked at the place where the battle was taking place in horror. This was just a very simple wave of immortal energy, but it was already unbearable for them. If the immortal king's attack reached them, they would probably be turned into dust before they could even react. At the same time, this wave of energy also destroyed the wolf head that was about to attack them. Don't be in a daze. Quickly kill this person. If this drags on, we might not be a match for him. Seeing that the wolf head formed by his immortal energy was shattered just like that, Ku Xian frowned. At the same time, he sent a message to the other 2 quasi-immortal kings. Understood. The 2 of them looked at each other seriously. Under the spread of immortal energy, one of the wolf heads had been destroyed, and the effect of the 3 wolves' immortal devouring formation had been reduced by nearly half. The wolf head that had just been formed had almost exhausted all the immortal energy in Ku Xian's body. Now, if he wanted to continue maintaining the stability of the formation, he had to form another wolf head. Ku Xian gritted his teeth and searched for all the immortal energy in his body. In an extremely short period of time, he once again formed another wolf head. However, this wolf head was obviously smaller than the previous one, and it also looked a little weaker. But no matter what, the formation was considered to have been successfully consolidated. If this is the strength of your heavenly gem mountain, then it's really funny. Bai Xiaoyun just watched. In the battle just now, she already understood that the 3 of them were definitely not a match for her. Kid, don't underestimate our heavenly gem mountain. These words directly angered Ku Xian. It was fine to look down on them, but if she looked down on heavenly gem mountain, it would undoubtedly be a slap to their faces. Show me your trump card and let me see it properly. Bai Xian's lips curled into a faint smile. Chapter 1533. Even if you're an immortal king, don't underestimate us. Ku Jia supported himself with both hands. Under his connection, the other 2 wolf heads also had a connection with him. To put it simply, he had already taken control of the celestial qi of the other 2 quasi-immortal kings. At this moment, he had already gathered the celestial qi of the other 2 quasi-immortal kings, and his aura had more than doubled from before. What kind of messy technique is this? Bai Xiaoyun frowned slightly. She naturally felt that something was wrong with the person in front of her. She took 2 steps back and protected Wanqing behind her. Little brother, he probably absorbed the immortal qi of the other 2 and used it for himself. You have to be careful. Wanqing also very sensibly hid behind Bai Xiaoyun. With the cultivation of an immortal monarch, it was impossible to get involved in the battle between a quasi-immortal king and a true immortal king. The slightest carelessness would cause one to be reduced to ashes. I know. Bai Xiaoyun nodded. Then can you tell me who you are? I heard that you're from the Divine Secret Pavilion, and your pavilion master asked me to come. I don't seem to have any relationship with your pavilion master, right? Wanqing continued. The pavilion master is over there. Bai Xiaoyun pointed at Jiangqin, who was standing not far away. Jiangqin, who had been observing the situation, immediately pulled down his black mask when he saw his father looking over, revealing only his eyes. If his father were to find out about this, he would most likely be screwed over. I don't know him. It seems that I've really met a good person today. Wanqing glanced at the masked man in the distance, and didn't think that he was his son. After confirming that he hadn't seen him, he couldn't help but sigh. Don't worry, good person. I'm only here to save your life on the orders of the pavilion master. As for the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather in your hands, you have to hand them over to me. Otherwise, I'll immediately turn around and leave this place. Bai Xiaoyun immediately explained. Wanqing was stunned. However, when he thought about the 3 quasi-immortal kings in front of him, and the true immortal king in front of him, this was no longer a situation he could handle. If he didn't hand over the immortal emperor's letter today, he might really die here. All right, I agree. As long as you can save my life, I'll give you these 2 items. After pondering for a moment, Wan Qing nodded and agreed. No matter how precious the immortal emperor's letter was, it was just a worldly possession. If he lost his life, he would have nothing left. Stand behind me. As long as I'm here today, no one will be able to hurt you. Bai Xiaoyan grinned. While they were talking, the 2 large and 1 small wolf head gradually merged into one under Withering's control. This wolf head was almost solid, and one could even see some solid whiskers and fangs. White Immortal King, this immortal technique is the immortal devouring wolf of our heavenly gem mountain. Within the barrier, as long as you still have a breath, you'll be attacked by the immortal devouring wolf. Controlling such a top-notch immortal technique of the sect, his withered forehead was already covered in sweat, and even his body was a little weak. This was originally an immortal technique used by an immortal king, and now they were only at the quasi-immortal king level. If the 3 of them didn't cultivate it together, they wouldn't have the chance to use it at all. Oh? Then let me see. Bai Xiaoyan waved her hand, and a white sword condensed from immortal qi appeared in her hand. The sword was icy cold, and when the sword's edge was successfully condensed, a chill instantly spread out. Withering closed his eyes. Under his mental control, the immortal devouring wolf opened its mouth and pounced at Bai Xiaoyan. Facing such a fierce attack, Bai Xiaoyan didn't dare to let her guard down. She raised the piercing white sword in her hand and stabbed fiercely at the wolf head. Boom! The white sword and the wolf head's sharp teeth collided fiercely. Even though Bai Xiaoyan's strength was slightly stronger, she still felt slightly strenuous when colliding with the joint attacks of 3 quasi-immortal kings, and it was even to the extent that she took 2 steps back at the instant of contact before she was able to disperse the force created by the collision. On the other side, the 3 immortal kings led by Withering all groaned, and their faces turned from red to sallow. Although they were able to fight Bai Xiaoyan head-on, they had all sustained significant injuries. Don't relax, take her down in one fell swoop. Sensing the discomfort in his body, Withering didn't stop. Instead, he shouted at the other 2 in a low voice. If he stopped now, it would undoubtedly be throwing his life away here. Only by continuing to attack Bai Xiaoyan in one go would they have a chance to defeat her. Otherwise, once they relaxed, they wouldn't even have the slightest advantage. The 3 immortal kings of Tianlang Mountain are indeed worthy of their reputation. To be able to fight me head-on with the strength of a quasi-immortal king, you can be considered a powerhouse. After taking 2 steps back and stabilizing her body, Bai Xiaofei looked at them and smiled faintly. Others may be afraid of your Divine Secrets Pavilion, but my Tianlang Mountain isn't. Withering snorted coldly, and the immortal qi in his hand continued to condense. The wolf head that had its teeth cut off howled again. With the support of the 3 immortal qi, the wolf head continued to attack Bai Xiaoyan. And this time, it was obviously more ferocious than before. The 3 immortal kings of Tianlang Mountain were going all out, wanting to kill Bai Xiaoyan here. And Bai Xiaoyan also understood their true intentions. After adjusting her breathing slightly, she once again raised the white sword in her hand and rushed out. Within the formation, Bai Xiaoyan was like a white meteor flashing all over the place. Every swing of her sword was mixed with extremely majestic power. And that wolf head was looking for every opportunity to attack, fiercely pouncing towards Bai Xiaoyan's body. The clash of strength between a quasi-immortal king and a true immortal king wasn't something that could be controlled by a single barrier. When the 4 of them all used their special skills, waves of immortal qi penetrated the barrier and spread out. In front of immortal ancient Doubt's city, violent winds rose, blowing sand and stones. Many people couldn't withstand such powerful fluctuations, and thus retreated over 100 steps. However, their eyes were still staring at the area where the battle was going on. A battle between immortal kings wasn't something that could be seen often. Jiang Chun was still sitting on the rock. He held his chin with one hand and couldn't help but yawn. With Bai Xiaoyan making a move, protecting his father shouldn't be a problem. Time passed second by second. Because both sides were using their special skills, the people outside couldn't see the situation inside the barrier at all. However, through the waves of true qi that spread out, they could sense that the battle was still very tense. You dog, I'll definitely take your life. Not far away, Kuyu was looking at Jiang Chen. He clenched his fists, and his eyes were dark. In his heart, he had already put Jiang Chen on his must-kill list. Originally, today's matter was going very smoothly. Even with this distinguished guest of the eternal riverbank, he could still snatch the immortal emperor's letter with the help of the 3 immortal kings of the sect. Chapter 1534. However, the sudden appearance of Jiang Chen had disrupted all of his plans. Based on the current situation, not only might he not be able to obtain the immortal emperor's letter, but even the 3 immortal kings in the sect might be injured. Kuyu found it hard to imagine how his father would treat him if he found out that the 3 immortal kings were injured because of him. Pfft! Just as he was thinking, a sound came from in front of him. Kuyu hurriedly raised his head and saw that Kuyu, who was originally in the barrier, had suddenly flown out. As he sprayed a mist of blood in the sky, his body landed heavily on the ground more than 10 meters away. Young master, Kuyu struggled a few times, but he felt an abnormal pain all over his body. Before he could even finish his sentence, he fainted. At this moment, the barrier not far away was suddenly broken, and the other 2 quasi-immortal kings were also beaten back. Bai Xiaoyun stood with one hand behind her back and the other hand holding the sword behind her back, as if she was a sword immortal king. What kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry dares to call themselves immortal kings? I think they should go back and cultivate in seclusion for a few more years. Unfortunately, their injuries are too severe. Even if they can recover, it seems that they won't be fated to become true immortal kings in this lifetime. Looking at the 3 people who had been defeated by her, Bai Xiaoyun revealed a faint smile. Seeing that the 3 immortal kings were all injured, Kuyu could no longer hold back and pointed at Bai Xiaoyun and questioned loudly. Bai Xiaoyun, your Divine Secrets Pavilion has gone too far. This was originally a matter of our Heavenly Gem Mountain and had nothing to do with you. Why did you interfere and ruin my business? Hearing Kuyu's bandit theory, Bai Xiaoyun casually replied, Only you are allowed to steal other people's things. Can't our Divine Secrets Pavilion protect you? Very well, you and that whatever pavilion master, just you wait. As long as I'm still alive, there will be a day when I take your lives. Kuyu was so angry that his hands were trembling. However, he had to know that the 3 immortal kings were already injured. With his strength, he had no chance of injuring this true immortal king of the Divine Secrets Pavilion. He could only say a few harsh words to release the pressure in his heart. What did you say? Bai Xiaoyun narrowed her eyes. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Kuyu. He raised his sword and pressed it against Kuyu's neck. As long as he exerted a little force, this young master of the eastern region's Tianlang Mountain would become a dead soul under his sword. Everyone held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold. In the past, in the vicinity of Immortal Ancient's Doubt City, there had indeed been quite a few cases of robbery or revenge, but there had never been a time when it was as satisfying as this. Xian Jun sat on the Dao Child holding the sword. The young master of the eastern region's Tianlang Mountain. Every single one of them was a well-known figure, the power behind them extremely tremendous, yet now, they were going to die here one after another. This could be considered the most serious matter in Immortal Ancient Doubt City's history. What do you want? Kuyu did not even have time to react when he saw Bai Xiaoyun appearing in front of him. He gulped and could not help but ask. Just as his Adam's apple moved slightly, it happened to come into contact with the blade of the sword. Instantly, his skin was cut open, and his blood gradually dripped onto the blade. Feeling the cold pain coming from his neck, Kuyu's pupils suddenly shrank, and even his legs could not help but tremble. What do you think I'm going to do? If I didn't hear wrongly, you don't seem to be planning on letting us go, right? Bai Xiaoyun stared into his eyes. I have a habit of not leaving behind any disasters for myself. Since you want to kill us, then I might as well get rid of you first. Eldest senior brother, please spare his life. Not far away, seeing that Bai Xiaoyun was about to make a move, Jiang Chen pretended to have a hoarse voice and advised. The pavilion master has spoken, so I'll let you go for now. With Jiang Chen's words, Bai Shiyun's mind moved slightly, and the sword formed from immortal energy dissipated. Phew! Kuyu heavily exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He touched the wound on his neck and looked at the blood on his hand. Cold sweat uncontrollably flowed down his forehead and back. This was the closest he had ever been to death in his life. If not for the pavilion master's words, he did not doubt that this immortal king in front of him would have really killed him. Within 1 minute, take your people and disappear from my sight. Looking at the few immortal kings that she had knocked to the ground, Bai Xiaoyun threw down these words and rushed back to Jiang Chen's side. Kuyu did not dare to hesitate. He quickly ran to Kuyu's side and used all his strength to help him up. Although the other 2 quasi-immortal kings were injured, they were not seriously injured to the point of fainting. The 4 of them supported each other and quickly left immortal ancient Doubt's city. However, Mystic 4, who had been killed by Wanqing, was still lying on the ground not far away. Seeing the people from Heavenly Gem Mountain leave, the people who were watching the show consciously retreated. They did not dare to fight for the immortal emperor's letter again. Even 3 quasi-immortal kings were defeated so miserably when they attacked together. They did not have the slightest chance. Little junior brother, why didn't you get rid of them? Bai Xiaoyun walked in front of Jiang Chen. I only wanted to save the VIP of the Eternal River Bank. You have already heavily injured the 3 immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain. If you are too overbearing, you will probably incur their revenge. Moreover, there are many people here. I don't want to bring shame to our pavilion of heaven's secrets. Jiang Chen looked at his father who was standing not far away. Pa! I didn't think it through. However, little junior brother, Chao Yuqian has already agreed to hand over the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. As long as we sell them, the 3 billion immortal jade you owe the Eternal River Bank will be easily repaid. Bai Xiaoyun patted her head and smiled honestly. She did not have the arrogant appearance from before at all. That's right. Jiang Chen replied. Chao Yuqian, come over. Our pavilion master has something to say to you. Bai Xiaoyun turned around and waved at Wanqing, who was standing not far away. Wanqing quickly ran over and took the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. Pavilion master, this is the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. You sent people to save my life, so these 2 things are naturally yours. However, I'm a bit curious. I don't seem to have any dealings with your pavilion of heaven's secrets, so why did you save me? While speaking, Wanqing was sizing up the pavilion master in front of him. However, Jiang Chen hit it too well. Even though they were standing face to face, Wanqing could not see anything wrong. Saving you is of course because of the things in your hands. It is also because of your identity. Looking at his disappointing father, Jiang Chen really wanted to swear at him, but he managed to control himself. He pretended to be mature and said in a hoarse voice, Oh? My identity? Wanqing was dazed. He immediately became vigilant and took 2 steps back. At the same time, he started to think about his movements during this time to see if there was any possibility of him being discovered. Chapter 1535. If his true identity was discovered, it would be very troublesome. After all, he was still imprisoned in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Jiang Chen saw that something was wrong with his father and hurriedly explained. You're a VIP of the Ganges Bank. If I save you, the Ganges Bank will owe me a favor. I see. Hearing Jiang Chen's words, Wanqing relaxed. After giving the letter and the Jin feather to Jiang Chen, Wanqing prepared to leave. But just as he was about to turn, Jiang Chen stopped him. Where are you going? Jiang Chen frowned. He wanted to know where his father was. I don't know, probably drifting around. Wanqing waved his hand. AI. Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh. He was worried about his father's safety. He was also worried that his father would borrow money from the Ganges Bank again. Seeing Wanqing leave, Jiang Chen opened the Immortal Emperor's letter. Looking at the obscure words and pictures, Jiang Chen skimmed through 2 lines of it and put it away. This time, he returned to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain to increase his cultivation level. Now that Bai Fengyu and Yin Chang'e had already ascended, if they still maintained their cultivation of true immortal stage 1, it would be difficult for them to lend a helping hand in the future. Now that he had the Immortal Emperor's letter, he could go back and ponder over it. If he was lucky, he might be able to break through. The Heaven Secrets Pavilion and the Alliance head of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance were only level 1 true immortals. If this got out, people would laugh their heads off. Should we get rid of that person? Seeing the crowd leave, Bai Xiaoyun noticed the black-clothed man sitting on the ground. After he was severely injured by Wan Qing, he had been sitting there paralyzed all along and had not recovered at all. Get rid of him. This guy has a dark attribute. He doesn't look like a disciple of the Black Divinity sect. It won't be a good thing to keep him alive, Jiang Qin said casually, taking the Immortal Emperor's letter and glancing at it calmly. The reason why he wanted to get rid of this person was because of his father's safety. All right. Bai Xiaoyun nodded. The moment he agreed, a powerful immortal qi burst out from his palm and penetrated the black-clothed man's head. Plop! Take this heavy blow. The black-robed man's pupils dilated in an instant. He fell to the ground and stopped breathing. How do you plan to sell this Immortal Emperor's letter? Or should we return to the ancient city now and sell it? I think it shouldn't be a problem to sell these 2 items for 3.5 billion. After repaying the immortal jades from the Ganges Bank, what's left can support the daily expenses of the Divine Secrets Pavilion. Staring at the Immortal Emperor's letter in Jiang Chen's hand, Bai Xiaoyun said with fiery eyes. How dare you put your ideas on me? Jiang Chen replied snappily. Of course. You're now the Pavilion Lord of the Divination Pavilion. Naturally, you have to be responsible for the sect. When Master was around, he was always thinking of ways to make money. Now that you've taken over his position, you have to think of ways to maintain the sect's expenses. Bai Xiaoyun laughed mischievously. With the remaining 1 billion immortal jades, they would be able to eat good food every day for a long time. They would no longer have to suffer like before. A dignified immortal king of the Divination Pavilion was actually more miserable than a small family. If this spread out, no one would believe it. All right. If there's anything left, it'll be our sect's funds. Hearing Bai Xiaoyun's words, Jiang Qin couldn't do anything. Who told him to sit in the Pavilion Lord's position? Then sell it? Bai Xiaoyun wanted to get the money and go out to eat the dishes she didn't dare to eat before. Let's wait. I want to comprehend the Immortal Emperor's letter. Maybe I can find an opportunity to advance. There's no rush for the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather. Let's sell it together with the Immortal Emperor's letter. Jiang Qin didn't hesitate and immediately said, When you're done, let me see it too. I've never seen anything left behind by an Immortal Emperor in my life. Bai Xiaoyun nodded and said, No problem. Jiang Qin said with a smile. After leaving Immortal Ancient Doubt City, the two immediately returned to Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Jiang Qin didn't mention what happened just now to anyone. As soon as he returned, he entered the 9th Mountain's secret room and went into seclusion. In the pitch-black room, Jiang Qin sat cross-legged on a brick bed. The Immortal Emperor's letter was placed on a small wooden table in front of him. In the silence, only the sound of flipping pages and breathing could be heard. Even if he couldn't understand the words recorded in the letter with his current cultivation, Jiang Qin wasn't discouraged. Instead, he braced himself and read. Even if he couldn't understand, he had to remember everything inside. Time passed minute by minute. Besides eating and sleeping, Bai Xiaoyun spent most of her time standing at the door of the secret room. All the disciples of the 9th Mountain who passed by were closely watched by her, afraid that they would affect Jiang Qin. At this time, in the eastern region not far from Immortal Ancient Doubt City, inside Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu brought the unconscious Kujia and the other 2 immortal kings back. As soon as they entered the sect, the 4 of them fell to the ground. Kuyu's originally feminine and handsome face directly hit the ground. 2 of his teeth fell out, and his face was also covered in scratches. Young master. When the disciple standing at the door saw the situation, he quickly went up to support him. When the young master and the 3 immortal kings of the sect went out, they were still fine. How did they become like this in less than half a day? Get out of my way! Kuyu felt that he had lost all his face. He slapped away the hand that the disciple stretched out and shouted angrily. Go and call the sect master and the great elder! One of the half-immortal kings who hadn't fainted used the last of his strength, and said weakly. After saying that, he fainted. Okay. The disciple didn't dare to delay and immediately ran into the sect. In less than 10 minutes, many people rushed out from inside. The one at the front was the sect master of Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu's father, Ku Wanjun. On his left and right were the great elder and second elder of Heavenly Gem Mountain. Seeing his son and the 3 immortal kings lying on the ground, Ku Wanjun frowned and shouted angrily. What's going on? The sect master's aura was vividly displayed on his body. Even some of the surrounding disciples couldn't help but feel their legs go soft when they heard it. Looking at his son's face covered in blood, Ku Wanjun's heart ached. Heavenly Gem Mountain was one of the largest sects in the eastern region. Everyone had to give him face. Kuyu was his son, so everyone in the eastern region had to respectfully call him young master. But now, he had just gone out for a trip and ended up in such a miserable state. Chapter 1536. The disciple stuttered, not knowing how to answer. I told you to speak. Ku Wanjun squinted his eyes and exerted a little force on the disciple. A suction force burst out from his palm. The disciple, who was standing 10 meters away, flew over uncontrollably. Ku Wanjun grabbed him tightly by the neck. If he exerted a little force, he would be crushed to death. Sect Master, we don't know what happened. Young Master was already like this when he came back. We don't know anything. The disciple didn't dare to move. He threw the disciple away. Ku Wanjun immediately went forward and helped Kuyu up. Dad, avenge me! Seeing Ku Wanjun, all the grievances in Kuyu's stomach exploded, and he cried out loud. Because his emotions were fluctuating too much, and because of the shock he received in Immortal Ancient Doubt City, he fainted after crying for a while. Send young master back to his room to rest. Ku Wanjun frowned and said. After the disciple carried Kuyu away, Ku Wanjun squatted down to check on the condition of the 3 immortal kings. From his investigation, the 3 of them had suffered different degrees of injuries. Ku Wanjun's injuries were the most serious. His meridians were damaged. Even if he recuperated, he wouldn't be able to return to his current cultivation. What the hell is going on? Ku Wanjun panted heavily. This undoubtedly weakened the strength of Heavenly Gem Mountain. If the news spread, the clans and sects that they had offended would no longer need to be afraid. They might even join forces to take revenge. At that time, Heavenly Gem Mountain, with the 3 immortal kings all injured, would definitely not be a match for this group of people. Listen to my orders. Immediately seal off the sect. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter or leave. Also, you all better keep what happened today a secret. If I find out that any of you leaked it out, don't blame me for killing all of you regardless of our relationship as fellow sect members. After pondering for a while, Ku Wanjun ordered the disciples in a low voice. Yes, sect master. The disciples didn't dare to say anything. They could feel the seriousness of this matter. If they didn't do as the sect master said, they might really lose their lives. He brought the 3 immortal kings back to the sect. Ku Wanjun immediately gathered all the higher-ups in the sect. In the hall, Ku Wanjun narrowed his eyes. Ku Wanjun took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Today, Kuyu brought 3 celestial kings to Immortal Ancient City in the northern region to bid for a celestial emperor's letter. Apart from Kuyu, all 3 of them are seriously injured. The 3 of them are all quasi-immortal kings. If the 3 of them were to join forces, even a true immortal king might not be able to stop them. How could they be seriously injured? That's hard to say. Everyone wants to obtain the immortal emperor's letter. Who knows, he might have met an expert. The core members of several sects spoke one after another. Sect Master, I think we should wait for young Master, Kujia and the others to wake up first. Being able to severely injure the three of them is enough to prove that the other party is not an ordinary person. We should observe the situation first before deciding what to do next. The great elder stroked his white beard and said in a hoarse voice. Ku Wanjun clenched his fists and said faintly, "No matter who they have offended, whether it is right or wrong, I will not allow Tianlang Mountain to suffer such a great grievance. Our sect has been established in the eastern region and has never suffered such humiliation." "That's right," everyone chimed in. "If they were to swallow it down, Heavenly Gem Mountain would become the laughing stock of the entire eastern region when the news spread. Not a single clan or sect would think highly of them anymore." Half a day later, Kuyu woke up. However, the three immortal kings, including Ku Jie, were still unconscious. Ku Wanjun had already ordered the stronger members of the sect to treat their injuries. He brought a few elders to Kuyu's room. As soon as they entered, Ku Wanjun asked directly, "What happened? How did you end up like this?" "Dad, it was a young man called Jiangchen. He ordered the immortal kings under him to take action." Kuyu's face turned red when he thought of what happened in Immortal Ancient City. "Who is Jiangchen?" Ku Wanjun was confused. Logically speaking, someone who could be accompanied by an immortal king was definitely not an ordinary person. With his status and knowledge, he should know everyone. However, he had never heard of this Jiangchen that his son was talking about. "It's the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect." Kuyu gritted his teeth and said, 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect? Ku Wanjun had heard of this sect before, but he still asked curiously, "Hasn't this sect declined? Even the sect leader has been suppressed in Kunlun Immortal Mountain. How could this person have an immortal king accompanying him?" "That's right. Young master, did you remember wrongly?" The first elder was also very surprised. "Absolutely. Not only is he the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, but he is also the current leader of the Heaven Secret Pavilion. He seems to be the leader of some overseas Immortal Mountain alliance." Kuyu sighed deeply. He hated Jiangchen to the core. If he had the chance, he would fight Jiangchen to the death right now. "What? Isn't the leader of the Heaven Secret Pavilion the White Robe Immortal King? When did it become a kid called Jiangchen?" "Young master, there is no alliance in the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance." Hearing his words, Ku Wanjun and the other elders were puzzled. No matter how they looked at it, it sounded like he was bragging. "It's true. The Immortal King following him is called Bai Xiaoyun. He is the son of the previous leader of the Heaven Secret Pavilion. He is a true Immortal King expert." Seeing that his father did not believe him, Ku Yu hurriedly explained, "It was Jiangchen who ordered Bai Xiaoyun to attack us. He took away the Immortal Emperor's letter that we were about to get and severely injured Ku Jie and the others." This? Ku Wanjun was a little hesitant. If Jiangchen was only the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, he would not be afraid. After all, this sect had declined a long time ago. With the strength of Heavenly Gem Mountain, they could get rid of it in minutes. However, the Heaven Secret Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance were enough to make him wary. If they provoked these forces, their Heavenly Gem Mountain would be reduced to dust in an instant. They would never be able to rise again. "Young master, how did you offend Jiangchen? With his status, if there was no reason, he would not attack you, right?" The great elder paused and asked. "Moreover, our Heavenly Gem Mountain does not seem to have any grudges with the Heaven Secret Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. The Immortal Emperor's letter was bought by a VIP of the Ganges Bank called Chao Chichao. I wanted to follow him and snatch it. I did not expect that Jiangchen would want to protect him, so he sent Bai Xiaoyun to attack us," Ku Yu said immediately. Chapter 1537. The Ganges Bank. Ku Wanjun was a little stunned. He didn't expect his son to offend so many people when he went out. Originally, he thought that no matter what force the other party was, he would take revenge. But now, it seemed that no matter if it was the mysterious pavilion, the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance, or the Ganges Bank, with the strength of their heavenly gem mountain, they couldn't afford to offend them. "Young master, it's a miracle that you came back alive," the great elder sighed. "Oh? What does the great elder mean?" Kuyu was a little unhappy. "It's Jiang Chun and Bai Shaoyun who ruined my plans and even seriously injured the 3 immortal kings of our sect. The mysterious pavilion is the sect of the white-robed immortal king. Not only is he one of the 3 immortal kings, but he also has countless immortal kings and quasi-immortal kings under him. Although the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance is slightly weaker, those sects have all joined together. Now that there's an alliance, our Heavenly Gem Mountain isn't a match for them," the great elder said helplessly. "The Ganges Bank is even more terrifying. This force has countless connections in the Great Thousand World. Offending them is equivalent to offending nearly half of the families and sections. You actually dared to steal their VIP's things. Once the Ganges Bank pursues the matter, even I can't protect you," Ku Wanjun also said. "Dad, what do you mean by that? Could it be that our Tianlang Mountain has suffered a loss and we're going to swallow it? There are many people watching outside Immortal Ancient City. They all saw our Heavenly Gem Mountain make a fool of ourselves. I believe it won't be long before the news spreads. If we don't get back at them, where will our Heavenly Gem Mountain's face go?" Kuyu wasn't someone who could swallow his losses. He didn't care about any forces or immortal kings. There was only one thing in his mind. That was to kill Jiangchen to vent the hatred in his heart. In order to achieve this goal, he could pay any price. "Of course we have to take revenge. How can we not pay a price for injuring our Heavenly Gem Mountain's immortal kings? However, this matter needs to be considered at length. Little you, don't worry about this matter for now. Let me handle it." Ku Wanjun stroked his beard as he pondered. "I will definitely make Jiangchen disappear from this world." Kuyu gritted his teeth. Ever since he was born, he had never suffered such grievances. "No problem, no problem." Ku Wanjun patted his back. After Kuyu gradually calmed down, Ku Wanjun left with the 2 elders. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Ku Wanjun sighed. "Elders, tell me, what do you have in mind?" Ku Wanjun stopped in his tracks, looked around, and asked in a deep voice. "Sect Master, it's clear that Jiangchen isn't someone to be trifled with. He's both the Pavilion Master of the Divination Pavilion and the Alliance Leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. We can't afford to offend him," the first elder said with a frown. "You don't have to tell me that. I know." Ku Wanjun waved his hand. "In my opinion, it's better to gradually forget about this matter. Our Tianlang Mountain has some strength in the East region, but compared to the sects in the great wide world, there's still a big gap. If we offend them, I'm afraid that a disaster will befall our Tianlang Mountain," the second elder also persuaded. "Sigh, I'll think about it again." Hearing the 2 elders' advice, Ku Wanjun couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He knew that he couldn't afford to offend these sections. However, now that Kuyu had offended the other party, and Ku Jie and the others were all seriously injured, the strength of Tianlang Mountain had been greatly reduced. He really couldn't vent his anger, and he couldn't tolerate someone trampling on his sect. However, now that the 2 elders were against it, he wouldn't continue to mention this matter. However, in his heart, he was planning how to make a move. Kunlun Mountain. In the blink of an eye, Jiangchen had been in seclusion for 3 days. During these 3 days, he didn't drink a single drop of water. Bai Shaoyun had been guarding the door, and the disciples of the 9th mountain knew that if there was nothing, they wouldn't come here. The various celestial kings from the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance would occasionally come to ask about it. However, they were all rejected by Bai Shaoyun and asked to stay in Kunlun Mountain. When Jiangchen wanted to see them, they would naturally appear. When the group of celestial kings heard Bai Shaoyun's words, they didn't dare to say anything. After all, they were now considered Jiangchen's subordinates, and Bai Shaoyun was Jiangchen's eldest senior brother. In terms of seniority, she was 2 levels higher than them. In order to prevent Jiangchen from being disturbed again, Bai Shaoyun simply moved a stool and sat at the door. She lay on it and closed her eyes to rest. 3 days later, in the evening, the door of the secret room was suddenly opened. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Bai Xiaoyun quickly got up. At the same time, she circulated her celestial qi to sense Jiang Chen's current cultivation. Eldest senior brother, there's no need to sense. My cultivation hasn't increased, and I haven't broken through. Sensing the celestial qi spreading out from Bai Xiaoyun's body, Jiang Chen waved his hand and said, "Ah? Then why did you come out so quickly?" Bai Xiaoyun was a little surprised. "I've been studying the Celestial Emperor's letter for 3 days, but I still can't understand it. I'm not in the mood to cultivate." Jiang Chen held the letter in his hand and said lightly, "I'm afraid even Master might not be able to understand the things left behind by the Celestial Emperor." Bai Xiaoyun didn't comfort her, but followed Jiang Chen's words. "That's right. If I can comprehend the immortal sovereign's things thoroughly, I might be able to make some progress in my cultivation. Then I'll be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. It's a pity that my current aptitude is still too low." Jiang Chen shook his head. "Little junior brother, have you thought about something?" Bai Xiaoyun asked. "What?" Jiang Chen turned his head to look at her. "This Celestial Emperor's letter sounds nice, but it's actually just something written by the Celestial Emperor. Although it's very difficult for us to understand, there might not be any cultivation methods or celestial arts recorded in it, but some mundane things like eating, drinking, and defecating." Bai Xiaoyun touched her nose and said with a strange expression, Hearing this, Jiang Chen fell into silence. What Bai Xiaoyun said wasn't unreasonable. This letter was just something casually written by the Celestial Emperor. It was very likely to be some mundane things. But thinking about it, if it was just casually written, how could it be so difficult to understand? Jiang Chen didn't continue to dwell on this problem. Instead, he prepared to study it in detail before going into seclusion to cultivate. If he could comprehend it in a month's time, it would definitely be of great help to his cultivation. But if he couldn't comprehend it, he would have to sell it to repay the debt to the Ganges Bank. Although Zhang Jiu didn't say when the deadline was, he couldn't keep delaying it. At that time, if he still couldn't comprehend it, Jiang Chen wouldn't dwell on it anymore. He would just treat it as if he wasn't fated with the things left behind by the Celestial Emperor. Chapter 1538. Bai Xiaoyun stared at the immortal emperor's letter in Jiang Chen's hands. After a while, he swallowed his saliva and couldn't resist the temptation. He asked, "Little junior brother, can you lend me this immortal emperor's letter?" Of course. Just as Bai Xiaoyun said that, Jiang Chen handed the immortal emperor's letter to him. Looking at the ancient rubbing, Bai Xiaoyun's entire body became excited, and even her breathing became a little rough. This was something left behind by the immortal emperor. Even the white-robed immortal king didn't have the luck to see it. And he just became an immortal king and got such a treasure. If he could comprehend it, wouldn't he be one step closer to the immortal emperor? With this thought, Bai Xiaoyun felt the air around him become sweeter. "Big senior brother, if you're lucky enough to understand it, then just wait and see. If we're not lucky, then I'll sell it in a month and pay off the debt to the Ganges Bank. I'm worried that the longer this drags on, the more interest there might be." Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh as he handed the immortal emperor's letter to Bai Xiaoyun. If his father didn't owe money to the Ganges Bank, then he could keep this letter with him. Even if he couldn't now, he would be able to understand it sooner or later. "Understood, I'll try my best. But you can transcribe it for the seniors and juniors in the pavilion." Bai Xiaoyun took the immortal emperor's letter and said excitedly, "That makes sense. Big senior brother, you can transcribe it." Jiang Chen nodded in agreement. "Then what are you planning to do during this period of time? You're not planning to cultivate in seclusion?" After the excitement, Bai Xiaoyun frowned and asked. Jiang Chen returned to Kunlun's celestial mountain to cultivate in seclusion. Now that he was out, there seemed to be no use for him to stay here. "I'll wait for you to transcribe it, and then take a look. Although the immortal emperor's letter is difficult to understand, I think if I keep studying it, I'll be able to understand it a little bit." Moreover, the immortal emperor's words can benefit us for the rest of our lives and help us avoid detours. Jiangchen took a deep breath and said with a smile. Okay, no problem. I'll go and make a copy and send it to you before dark. Bai Xiaoyan nodded vigorously in agreement. Watching him leave, Jiangchen turned around and returned to the secret chamber. Sitting in front of the wooden table, he continued to recall the words recorded in the handbook. Eastern region. Inside Tianlang Mountain. After 3 days and 3 nights of rest, Ku Jie and the others woke up. Ku Wanjun rushed over as soon as he received the news. At this moment, Ku Jie was resting on his bed. His meridians were all broken and his internal organs were damaged. He was extremely weak. If it weren't for the fact that his eyes were still moving and his complexion close up, one would think that he was a corpse lying there. Ku Jie, I heard that you have woken up. How do you feel? Ku Wanjun strode in and stood in front of the bed. Looking at the sect master who had been tortured to such an extent, he felt as if his heart was bleeding. I'm fine, sect leader. Where's the young master? Is he still safe? Ku Xia was overwhelmed by the sect leader's personal arrival. He struggled to sit up and salute. Ku Yu is fine. Ku Jie quickly pressed down on his shoulders and made him continue to lie on the bed. Just lie on the bed and rest. Now that your body is so severely injured, you don't have to care about the formalities in the sect. Thank you, sect leader, Ku Jie replied weakly. What happened a few days ago? You were told me that some pavilion leader of the Tianji pavilion ordered his immortal king to attack you. Are you sure? Ku Wanjun picked up a cup of water and asked. That's right. That's how he introduced himself. He even said that he was the alliance leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance, and the disciple of the 9th mountain of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. He had a lot of titles, but the immortal king under him was indeed very strong. The 3 of us joined forces and used our best skills, but we didn't hurt him at all. Instead, we ended up in this state. Ku Jie sighed and said helplessly. Seems like it's true. I didn't expect him to be an expert from the Tianji pavilion. It's not unjust that you lost to him. However, since he injured you, I naturally won't let him off easily. Our Tianlang Mountain can still deal with an immortal king. Oh right, what's the cultivation of that Jiangchen? Ku Wanjun frowned. I'm not sure. He might be an immortal king. It's said that he's at the first layer of the true immortal realm. Ku Jie thought carefully and didn't dare to answer with certainty. It's fine, it's fine. It doesn't matter how strong he is. It's the same. Ku Wanjun narrowed his eyes and remembered everything Ku Jie said. Sect leader, you're not thinking of attacking them, right? Ku Jie had a bad premonition when he saw Ku Wanjun's expression. Of course. He injured you to such an extent. If I pretend that nothing happened, then there's no need for me to be the sect leader anymore. Ku Wanjun snorted coldly. Ku Jie became agitated when he heard this. Sect leader, that day in Immortal Ancient City, we didn't want to make a move. It was the young master who wanted to get the Immortal Emperor's letter. Now that we've offended him, it's not good for our Tianlang Mountain if we continue to be entangled with him. Due to his agitation, Ku Jie coughed violently before he could finish his sentence. I've already decided. It's useless no matter what you say. The incident in Immortal Ancient City will spread out soon. If we do that, our Tianlang Mountain's reputation will be tarnished in the eastern region. We won't be able to raise our heads again. Ku Wanjun frowned. No matter who tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen to them. Well said. If we don't take revenge, how can we survive in this world? Suddenly, a gloomy voice rang out in the room. The doors and windows of the room were instantly shut, making a loud noise. Who's there? Ku Wanjun stood up and looked around vigilantly. He didn't bring anyone with him when he came to visit Ku Jie. Moreover, he didn't sense anyone in the room. Now that he suddenly heard this voice, it made his hair stand on end. However, he was in his own sect after all, so he didn't panic too much. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that we have the same goal. We can work together. That's enough. A moment later, a cloud of black fog appeared in the room. Then, the atmosphere in the room became strange. It even felt a little oppressive. That voice came from the black fog. "Who are you?" Seeing such a strange situation, Ku Wanjun instantly activated his immortal chi. A wolf head bigger than the one Ku Jia released appeared above his head. The wolf head was almost completely materialized. One could see a pair of eyes flashing with green light. One could vaguely see gray-green fur. One could even feel the hot breath coming from the wolf's nose. Chapter 1539. True Celestial King Realm. Not bad, not bad. Unfortunately, with your cultivation, I don't think you can take revenge. The gloomy voice came from the black fog again. Since you know my cultivation level, why do you have to be so timid? This is my heavenly gem mountain. It's easy for me to get rid of you. Ku Wanjun stared at the black fog in front of him. His intuition told him that the thing in the black fog was not as simple as it seemed. Sect leader, you have to be careful. Ku Jia clenched his teeth and said in a low voice. You're right. The laughter came from the black fog again. After the laughter dissipated, a figure gradually became clear in the black fog. After a few seconds, the black fog completely dissipated. A man in a black robe appeared in the middle of it. This person appeared out of thin air in Tianlang Mountain. None of the elders and disciples in the sect sensed his presence. Even Ku Wanjun only sensed his presence after the other party took the initiative to appear. Who are you? Ku Wanjun heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the man. Although he did not know the man in front of him, it was better to see him than not to see him. However, he did not let his guard down. Judging from the fact that this person was able to sneak into the sect without anyone noticing and appear beside him out of thin air, he was definitely a true immortal king. In fact, his cultivation level might even be higher than his. Don't be so cautious. I'm here to join forces with you. The man in black sat on a stool by the wall and said in a hoarse voice. Join forces with what? Ku Wanjun was still staring at him. The wolf head formed by celestial chi was still hanging in midair. As long as there was anything wrong with this man, Ku Wanjun would use all his strength to kill him. You were beaten up by Bai Xiaoyan from the mystery pavilion, right? The man in black ignored Ku Wanjun and looked at Ku Jia, who was lying on the bed. That's right. Ku Jia hesitated for a while and said honestly. Jiang Qin is indeed the pavilion leader of the mystery pavilion. He is also the alliance leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. This is what I found out in the past few days. Since sect leader Ku wants to take action against him, I might be able to help you. The man in black continued. I don't need your help. Ku Wanjun rejected firmly. Ha ha! Sect Master Ku, you must be joking. There are so many immortal kings in the Tianji Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain that you can't imagine. Not to mention that this person is a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. If you take action yourself, with the strength of your Tianlang Mountain, you won't be able to deal with these immortal kings at all. Hearing Ku Wanjun's words, the black-clothed man burst into laughter. You don't have to worry about that. You're not from Heavenly Gem Mountain, and you're not my friend. Ku Wanjun pondered for a while before shaking his head. He felt that there was something wrong with this person. He didn't look like a normal person. I came all the way here, but I didn't expect to be rejected. The black-clothed man stood up and waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. Originally, I even brought some medicinal pills from my clan and wanted to help the immortal king of Heavenly Gem Mountain recover. Now, it seems that I was just thinking too much. After saying this, the black fog once again appeared beside the black-clothed man, and his figure gradually became illusory. Wait! As soon as these words were spoken, Ku Wanjun and Ku Jia were startled. For the past few days, they had been thinking of ways to treat their injuries. It was hard for Heavenly Gem Mountain to ignore the three quasi-immortal kings. Without them, the sect's strength would be reduced. It was a pity that their injuries were too serious. Their meridians and internal organs had all been severely damaged. Therefore, Ku Wanjun couldn't find a way to treat them even after searching the entire sect. But now, the black-clothed man in front of him said that he had brought some medicinal pills. It was hard for Ku Wanjun to reject such a condition. "Oh? I wonder if Sect Master Ku has anything else to say?" The black-clothed man sneered. His words were filled with disdain towards Ku Wanjun. "I was a little too agitated just now. Please sit down and talk." Ku Wanjun took a deep breath and retracted his immortal chi. At the same time, he cupped his hands and said in a deep voice, "This bottle of pills will allow their bodies to recover to their original state after 3 days of consumption. It may even allow their cultivation to advance. However, this will depend on their own luck." The black-robed man took out a bottle of pills from his sleeve and placed it on the table. "Such a miraculous medicinal pill!" Ku Wanjun was a little surprised. "I came here to cooperate with you. We have the same goal, which is to get rid of Jiangchen and Bai Shaoyun." The black-clothed man smiled faintly. "Oh? I wonder if there is any grudge between you and Jiangchen?" Ku Wanjun asked hurriedly as he kept the medicinal pills. "In Immortal Ancient City, he ordered Bai Shaoyun to kill my disciple. If I don't take revenge, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace." At this point, the black-clothed man was obviously a little agitated. Even the words he said were filled with hostility. "You mean that black-clothed man?" Ku Wanjun immediately reacted. "That's right. He is my disciple," the black-clothed man admitted. "What black-clothed man?" Ku Wanjun was a little confused. "Sect leader, after the VIP of the Eternal River Bank obtained the Immortal Emperor's letter, he attacked a black-clothed man and severely injured him. He also stole the 10,000 miles Cloud Rock's true feather. This means that Jiangchen must have ordered Bai Shaoyun to attack him after we left." Ku Wanjun thought for a while and explained. "May I ask which sect you are from?" Ku Wanjun couldn't help but ask as he looked at the strange black-clothed man in front of him. "The Outer Region Black Sect," the black-clothed man said softly. Ku Wanjun's expression immediately changed. The Outer Region wasn't a good place. Most of the strange sects in the Great Thousand World were located there. Ku Wanjun had never heard of the Black Sect before. However, judging from the strength of this person, he was afraid that they weren't simple. "How about it? Do you want to work with me? I can provide elixirs to help the immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain recover. After that, we can work together to get rid of Jiangchen. If there's a chance to destroy the Divine Secret Pavilion, we'll split everything in the pavilion equally." The black-clothed man's eyes, which were hidden under his hat, stared straight at Ku Wanjun. "Sect leader of the Black Sect, you just said that Jiangchen is not only the pavilion master of the Divine Secret Pavilion, but also the alliance leader of the Immortal Mountain Alliance in the Outer Region. With just the two of us working together, it doesn't seem like we're a match for him." Ku Wanjun didn't lose his ability to think. He had to think carefully about this matter. If they succeeded, it would be fine. If they failed, then Heavenly Gem Mountain would really be in big trouble. Chapter 1540. Although he had already decided to take action, it was just a thought in his mind. He didn't know when he would take action. "Since I'm here, I have my own plan. You just need to cooperate with me. I'll give you 3 days to consider. After 3 days, I'll come back here to listen to your decision. That bottle of pills is my gift to you. Whether you agree or not, I'll give it to you." The black-robed man didn't say anything else. After he finished speaking, the black fog around his body once again enveloped him. After a while, his aura completely disappeared from the room. If it wasn't for the bottle of pills in Ku Wanjun's hand, it would have been as if the sect leader of the Black Sect had never appeared. "Sect leader this?" Kujia didn't know what was going on. If the black-robed man killed by Bai Shaoyun is really his disciple, then it's understandable that he would come here. "I think it's not easy for him to get rid of Jiangchen with the Black Sect's strength. That's why he wants to work with us." Ku Wanjun pondered and said faintly. "Sect leader, do you want to work with him?" Kujia asked. "Didn't he give me 3 days? I'll think about it." Ku Wanjun held the bottle in his hand. Do you want to try this bottle of pills? I want to try it. I'm already a cripple now. I don't have any cultivation and I can't even take care of myself. If this pill can really help me recover, it means that he's not lying and he's sincere. Ku Jia looked at the bottle with a fiery gaze. What if it's not a pill but a poison? Ku Wanjun continued to ask. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm already a cripple now. Not only can I not help the sect, but I'll also be a burden in the future. If it's a poison, then I'll be free. Ku Jia shook his head and smiled. He would rather die than live as he was now. All right, I'll respect your decision. After a pause, Ku Wanjun passed the bottle to Ku Jia. He opened the bottle and poured out a black pill. Without any hesitation, Ku Jia swallowed it. Kun Wanjun stared at him and clenched his fists. Phew! Ku Jia took a deep breath and allowed the pill to react in his body. A moment later, his withered complexion gradually eased up. His originally deathly pale complexion gradually became rosy, and the emptiness in his body slowly disappeared, replaced by a surge of abundant energy. Sect leader, this is not poison! Ku Jia jumped off the bed as he realized what was going on. It seems that this person is sincere. Ku Wanjun heaved a sigh of relief. If Ku Jia was fine, it meant that the other two immortal kings would also be able to recover their strength. Let me think about it. I will decide whether to join forces with him in 3 days. Yes, Ku Jia replied as he stretched his body. Kunlun Celestial Mountain. After Bai Xiaoyun transcribed a copy of the Immortal Emperor's letter, Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun entered 2 adjacent secret rooms for closed-door cultivation. As long as they could comprehend the essence of the letter, they would have a chance to obtain the Immortal Emperor's inheritance. Before going into closed-door cultivation, Jiang Chen specially called a few immortal kings from the Outer Sea's Immortal Mountain over and asked them to take turns guarding outside. After all, he had too many enemies in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. If someone wanted to make a move while he was in closed-door cultivation, they might go berserk if they were not careful. These immortal kings were like bodyguards, standing obediently at the door of the secret room. Soon, this place became a scenic spot in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Even in the Immortal Mountain, there were still very few immortal kings. But now, there were 7 to 8 immortal kings standing at the door of the secret room. They had never seen such a majestic scene before. The immortal kings of the overseas Immortal Mountain were not impatient with these disciples who had come to watch the fun. They only told them that it was okay to come here, but they should not make any trouble or make any noise. They should not affect Jiang Chen and Bai Shiyun's secluded practice. Otherwise, they would not care about the difference in strength and attack them instantly. On top of the first mountain, a mountain lord was sitting cross-legged on the top of the mountain, cultivating. The disciple half knelt in front of her and told her about the recent happenings in the Immortal Mountain. The mountain lord closed her eyes. Her expression did not change at all. However, when the disciple talked about Jiangchen, her slightly closed eyes opened. You said that Jiangchen got the Immortal Emperor's letter? A mountain lord asked. It's like this. News has already spread from Immortal Ancient City. It said that Jiangchen brought Bai Xiaoyun to save a VIP of the Eternal River Bank. Moreover, he also severely injured a few immortal kings from the eastern region's Heavenly Gem Mountain. The disciple nodded. His cultivation is too low. He's only at the first stage of the true immortal realm. Even if he got the Immortal Emperor's letter, he wouldn't be able to comprehend it completely. A mountain lord smiled faintly. Mountain lord, there's another news. After the mountain lord finished speaking, the disciple dared to continue. Oh? What is it? A mountain lord raised her eyebrows slightly. The VIP of the Eternal River Bank that they saved personally killed immortal King Xian Jun's sword disciple, Xian Si. I'm worried that Xian Jun won't find trouble with the Eternal River Bank. Instead, he'll come to our Kunlun Immortal Mountain to denounce us. The disciple swallowed his saliva. What a joke. It's not like it was our Kunlun Immortal Mountain that killed his disciple. Why would he look for us? A mountain lord sneered. Although that's the case, it was Jiang Qin who protected the Eternal River Bank's people. Who knows, Xian Jun might blame us in a fit of anger. The disciple continued. This kid, he can't be thinking of letting the Eternal River Bank owe him a favor to reduce his debt, right? What a naive child. A mountain lord could not help but shake his head and laugh. How many immortal jades do we have left in the first mountain? We have a total of about 500 million. 300 million of them are our expenses for the next 3 years. The other 200 million is our savings. We'll keep it for emergencies. The disciple pondered for a while and said honestly. This was not an ordinary disciple, but a mountain lord's confidant. He was very familiar with the first mountain's situation, and most of the mountain lord's knowledge of the outside world came from him. Take out 300 million for Jiang Qin. But we have to get him to sign an IOU. His father's debt can't be paid by the first mountain. A mountain lord thought for a while. Lord, that's 300 million immortal jades we're talking about. Besides, Jiang Qin doesn't have a good reputation. When he left last time, he robbed the 9th mountain clean. If we lend him the money, we won't be able to get it back. The disciple got anxious when he heard that. Jiang Qin's deeds were famous in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Just listen to me. 200 million immortal jades is enough for us to last for a few years. Let all the disciples live frugally. I don't think Jiang Qin will take the money and run. I believe in his character. A mountain lord took a deep breath. Chapter 1541. She didn't help him just because of Jiang Qin, but because of Wan Qing, she made such a choice. Since Mountain Lord has spoken, then after Jiang Qin finishes his seclusion, I will send the promissory note over. However, Mountain Lord, I still want to remind you that if this money is given out, it's very likely that you won't be able to get it back. Moreover, 300 million immortal jades, even if Jiang Qin pays it back, it will be a few years later. Seeing that Mountain Lord had already made her decision, the disciple was still a bit worried and advised her. After all, Jiang Qin was really too famous. Do as I say. I know what I'm doing. Mountain Lord waved her hand. After saying this, she closed her eyes and continued to cultivate. The disciple stood in front of her for a while before leaving helplessly. 2 days passed. The door of the secret room by Xiaoyun was suddenly opened. White Immortal King! Seeing her come out, several immortal kings from the overseas immortal mountains hurried forward. And have you been guarding here all this time? Bai Xiaoyun held the immortal emperor's letter and glanced at them. Her eyes were a bit sharper than before she went into seclusion. It seemed that she had gained some benefits from the letter. Alliance Master told us to watch here, so we've been here all this time. These 2 days, many people from Kunlun Immortal Mountain have come to make a scene, but we all asked them to be quiet and not disturb your seclusion. White Immortal King, why did you come out after cultivating for such a short time? A few immortal kings surrounded Bai Xiaoyun and asked all at once. The length of seclusion isn't about the length. Bai Xiaoyun smiled faintly, then raised the immortal emperor's letter in her hand. Do you know what this is? Immortal technique? Cultivation technique? Everyone asked. This is the immortal emperor's letter. I got it some time ago when I went to immortal ancient Doubt City with your alliance master. Some notes left behind by an immortal emperor are recorded on it. This time, I went into seclusion to comprehend the profoundness within. Bai Xiaoyun explained when she saw the puzzled eyes of these people. What? Immortal Emperor's letter? White Immortal King, the Immortal Emperor's letter is no ordinary thing. When they found out what it was from Bai Xiaoyun, the eyes of these immortal kings became fiery. They all knew what it meant. The Immortal Emperor's letter was one of the opportunities to become an immortal emperor. Legend had it that if one could comprehend a handwritten letter, they would be able to obtain the method to become an immortal emperor. Since ancient times, there had been cases of people becoming immortal emperors because they had read the handwritten letter. To them, this was an endless attraction. Almost everyone's eyes were fixed on the item in Bai Xiaoyun's hand. However, they knew that this letter only belonged to Jiang Qin and Bai Xiaoyun. If they showed that they wanted to obtain it, they might become a thorn in Jiang Qin's side. Do you want it? Seeing their conflicted looks, Bai Xiaoyun waved her hand in front of them. No, I don't. I'm afraid we don't have the qualifications to see it. The immortal kings all shook their heads. Just say what's on your mind. Now that Jiangqin is the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion and the leader of your overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance, from a certain point of view, we are considered to be on the same side. I have already transcribed a copy of this letter. According to the result of my discussion with Jiangqin, whether it is the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion or the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance, as long as you follow Jiangqin wholeheartedly, you will have the opportunity to read it. As for whether you can obtain it, it will depend on your performance. Bai Xiaoyun put away the Immortal Emperor's letter and said to them in a low voice. Really? White Immortal King, are you serious? The Immortal Kings did not expect to hear such words. What did it mean to be able to read the Immortal Emperor's letter? It meant that they had the opportunity to touch the highest level. To them, this was simply a pie that fell from the sky. Haha, I am the eldest senior brother of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion and one of Jiangqin's subordinates. Why would I lie to you? Bai Xiaoyun smiled and waved her hand. Stay well under Jiangqin's command. When you have made a contribution or become familiar with him, he will naturally give you the Immortal Emperor's letter for you to read. After all, he is now the leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Increasing your strength is also increasing his own strength. We understand. White Immortal King, please put in a few good words for us in front of the Alliance Master. The Immortal Kings all cupped their hands towards Bai Xiaoyun. They were all extremely excited and wanted to quickly get the Immortal Emperor's letter so that they could understand the contents inside. Is there anything going on with Jiangqin? Bai Xiaoyun glanced sideways at the secret room next to her. No, it has been very quiet. There has been no news. The Immortal Kings all shook their heads. However, just as they finished speaking, the door of Jiangqin's secret room was suddenly pushed open. Jiangqin walked out of the room slowly. You've improved your cultivation? Bai Xiaoyun asked in surprise when she felt the stronger fluctuations on Jiangqin's body. Yes, it's just from the first level of the true immortal realm to the third level of the true immortal realm. I sensed that you had already come out of seclusion, so I left. Jiangqin nodded. Oh right, I've already told them that if they perform well, I'll give them the copy of the Immortal Emperor's letter. Is there a problem? Bai Xiaoyun handed the letter to Jiangqin and said. Jiangqin's expression didn't change. When he was in the secret room, he had already heard the conversation outside. Seeing that these immortal kings were all staring at him with burning eyes, Jiangqin pretended to hesitate for a moment before nodding. Seeing Jiangqin nod, these immortal kings were completely relieved. Pavilion Master, don't worry. We will definitely be loyal to you in the future. The immortal kings knelt on one knee at the same time and said to Jiangqin with cupped fists. There's no need for this. We're all together. The Overseas Immortal Mountain not only needs me, but also needs everyone. Jiangqin hurriedly helped them up. This scene was also seen by the disciples not far away. When these disciples of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain saw that there were immortal kings kneeling to Jiangqin, their mouths were wide open as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Previously, when Jiangqin left, he had almost cheated all the treasures of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. He was like a rat that everyone wanted to beat up. But how long had it been? When this kid came back again, there were actually so many immortal kings by his side. These immortal kings were even respectful to him, as if they were his subordinates. What's going on? This kid even tricked the immortal kings? Who knows? If Jiangqin can deceive us, he might be able to deceive these immortal kings. I don't think so. The immortal kings aren't fools. Jiangqin must have obtained some kind of opportunity after leaving the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. That's why these immortal kings are so respectful to him. Many disciples of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain were discussing. However, to them, this wasn't a good thing. Chapter 1542. With so many loyal immortal kings around Jiangqin, it was impossible for them to get back what they had been cheated of. After understanding this point, these disciples scattered and left. However, the hatred they had for Jiangqin did not decrease. It was just that they did not dare to find trouble with him because of the strength of the Immortal Kings. Alliance Leader, White Immortal King, when you were still in seclusion this morning, the First Mountain's Mountain Lord sent someone to look for you. After seeing that you were still in seclusion, she said to inform you when you came out. She did not say anything else. The Immortal King standing at the front reported to Jiangqin immediately after he stood up. First Mountain Lord? Hearing his words, Jiangqin's expression was a little strange. The master of the First Mountain wasn't just anyone. She was his father's woman. According to reason, he should call her his stepmother. However, they had never confirmed their relationship. His father had always been a playbill. It was unknown how many feelings he had left behind for her. Yes, she said that she had something important to tell you. The Immortal King nodded. Then I'll go and take a look. You guys can go and rest. During this period of time, we'll stay in Kunlun Immortal Mountain temporarily. Jiangqin pondered for a while and walked down the mountain. I'll go with you. Bai Xiaoyun hurriedly followed. They arrived at the first mountain. Jiangqin soon met the First Mountain Lord. On the mountain peak, the First Mountain Lord was still sitting cross-legged and cultivating. Beside her stood 4 disciples guarding her. Jiangqin walked up softly and stood beside her without saying a word. Bai Xiaoyun also stood behind Jiangqin. After an unknown period of time, the First Mountain Lord opened her eyes when the sky gradually turned dark. Weren't you in seclusion? Seeing Jiangqin appear in front of her, the First Mountain Lord was a little surprised. I've come out of seclusion. My cultivation has risen from level 1 to level 3. Jiangqin cupped his hands towards her. With the relationship between this woman and his father, she deserved his respect. You guys can leave first. The First Mountain Lord looked at the disciples beside him and said to them indifferently. After all the disciples left, the First Mountain Lord looked at Bai Xiaoyun. You must be the eldest disciple of the White Robe Immortal King, right? For you to be able to reach the Immortal King stage at such a young age, you do have some talent. Who knows, you might be able to comprehend the secrets of the Immortal Emperor's letter. So the Mountain Chieftain already knows. Bai Xiaoyun smiled awkwardly. How could I not know? The things you all did in Immortal Ancient City have probably already spread throughout the entire northern region. You all actually dared to protect the person who killed Xianjun's Dao child. Your guts are not small. Could it be that you are not afraid that Xianjun will come to Kunlun Immortal Mountain to cause trouble for you all? The First Mountain Lord coldly snorted. First Mountain Lord, things are not as you think. Hearing this, Jiangqin hurriedly moved forward and whispered into the First Mountain Lord's ear. As Jiangqin spoke, the First Mountain Lord's expression turned strange. The VIP of the Ganges Bank who killed Xianjun's sword Dao child was actually Wan Cheng? I had no choice. If I didn't do anything, he would have been killed by those people from Heavenly Gem Mountain. Even if I offended Xianjun, I had to do something. Moreover, I had already killed Xiansan. I think Immortal King Xianjun should be able to accept this matter. Jiangqin took 2 steps back and scratched his head. You still think it's quite glorious? The First Mountain Lord frowned slightly. Hee, it's not glorious. Jiangqin said somewhat embarrassedly. However, he did not take Xianjun seriously. After all, he had given Yin Chang'e, a disciple with 72 lotuses, to him. It was fine if Xianjun was not grateful, but how could he kill him? Let me tell you, you better be honest. This time, not only did you offend Xianjun and the eastern region's Heavenly Gem Mountain, even the black-robed man you killed might have an extraordinary identity. The First Mountain Lord sighed deeply and said somewhat helplessly. Oh? Jiangqin raised his eyebrows. According to what I know, when he attacked the VIP of the Ganges Bank, he seemed to have used the dark attribute, right? The First Mountain Lord's expression became strange at the mention of Wan Qing. That's right. Jiangqin replied. I don't know exactly what happened that day, but if this person's identity is extraordinary, wouldn't you have gotten into trouble again? The First Mountain Lord looked at Jiangqin as though he was looking at his troublesome son. I can solve these matters myself. Jiangchen shrugged. I called you over today to give you something. The first mountain lord took out a piece of paper from his sleeve and handed it to Jiangchen. There are 300 million immortal jades in this promissory note. Take it and use it. Remember to return the money you earn in the future. 300 million? Jiangchen was somewhat stunned. After receiving the promissory note, he saw that there were indeed 300 million immortal jades written on it. Although he was not a disciple of the first mountain, he knew how rich the first mountain lord was. She probably took out all her savings to take out this 300 million. I know why you went to Immortal Ancient City. You wanted to find something good there to repay your brother's debt to the Ganges Bank. Although 300 million immortal jades is not much, it's a token of my sincerity. Don't do such risky things in the future. The first mountain lord looked at the promissory note with a pained expression. Giving out this sum of money meant that the entire first mountain would have to live frugally. Cough, cough. Actually, I've already gathered enough money. Looking at the promissory note in his hand, Jiangchen was very touched. How did you gather the money? The first mountain lord was curious. When I went to Immortal Ancient City, I got the Immortal Emperor's letter and the 10,000 miles Cloud Rock's true feather. These two items can be sold for at least 3 billion immortal jades. It's not a problem to repay the debt to the Ganges Bank. I can even keep some for myself. Jiangchen scratched his head and told the truth. You really got the Immortal Emperor's letter? The first mountain lord's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Originally, she had only heard it from her subordinate disciples. Although she was skeptical, she did not feel much of a fluctuation in her heart. However, now that she heard it from Jiangchen's mouth, she could not hide her shock. That's right. I got it. Jiangchen nodded. Can I take a look? The first mountain lord walked down from the huge rock and stood in front of Jiangchen. This? Jiangchen was a little hesitant. First mountain lord, I can let you take a look at the Immortal Emperor's letter. However, I don't know if you have anything to exchange for it. What did you say? The first mountain lord was obviously a little angry when she heard Jiangchen's words. I took out half of the immortal jades in the mountain to help you. Now you won't even let me take a look at the Immortal Emperor's letter? Moreover, I just want to take a look, not steal it. Here, I'll give it to you. Seeing that the first mountain lord was about to flip out, Jiangchen quickly changed his tone. After all, the woman in front of him was someone that even his father did not dare to offend. Once she got angry, he would probably have to lie in bed and recuperate. Chapter 1543. After handing over the Immortal Emperor's letter, Jiangchen stood there and waited obediently. It was indeed left behind by the Immortal Emperor. The first mountain lord flipped through a few pages and returned it to Jiangchen. First mountain lord, are you not interested in it? Jiangchen was a little surprised. He originally thought that the first mountain lord would look at it for 2 days. He did not expect her to return it to him so quickly. I'm interested, but I don't have that much time to study it. Just the matters of the first mountain are enough to keep me busy. The first mountain lord shook her head and said, I asked eldest senior brother to transcribe a rubbing. If you want, you can make a copy. Thinking about how the first mountain lord took out 300 million immortal jades to help him, Jiangchen continued. He did not want to owe this woman a favor. His father had already wronged her enough. All right, when you have time, write me a copy. I'll send someone to get it. The first mountain lord's eyes lit up. No problem. Bai Xiaoyun also agreed. Jiangchen, I think that with your current cultivation, this Immortal Emperor's letter is not very useful to you. You must remember that you cannot casually spread this item. You should understand the principle of an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth, right? The first mountain lord looked at the young man in front of her, and could not help but warn him. Of course I know. However, the Immortal Emperor's letter has already been spread out in Immortal Ancient Doubt City. Even if I want to keep it a secret, I can't. Jiangchen smiled helplessly. Didn't you say that you want to sell this letter? I think that before you sell it, you should stay in Kunlun Immortal Mountain. That way, even if there are jealous people who want to fight for it, they won't dare to barge in. When the news of you selling it spreads, I think these people won't do anything to you." The first mountain lord pondered for a while and told Jiang Chen what she thought. "That's what I'm going to do. It'll be great if I can comprehend it within a month. If I can't, I'll sell it. Anyway, I have a copy of it. It's useless for me to keep the immortal sovereign's letter." Jiang Chen nodded and spoke his mind. "All right, since you have enough immortal jades, I'm relieved. But if you see Wan Qing again, talk to him. Don't let him be too arrogant outside. The three immortal kings are not so easy to deceive. If he reveals himself, no one can save his life," Wan Qing said. Wan Qing's face was filled with a hint of anger. He was a bit worried. The first mountain lord moved closer to Jiang Chen and whispered to him. "All right, farewell, senior." Jiang Chen cupped his hands at her. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, Jiang Chen and Bai Shaoyun left the first mountain. On the way back, Bai Shaoyun curiously asked what the first mountain chieftain had said to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen didn't say it directly. He only told her to be careful. After returning to the ninth mountain, Jiang Chen met Xian Yu and went back to his room to continue his seclusion. His strength had just risen to the third level of the true immortal realm. He still needed time to consolidate his strength and let his body and meridians get used to the increased cultivation. Otherwise, if his foundation was not stable, even if he reached the immortal king realm, he would be very weak. The strength he could unleash would be very different from a real immortal king. In the blink of an eye, the whole night passed. At the same time, in Tianlang Mountain, Ku Wanjun also made his decision. Ku Wanjun rushed to the room where Ku Jia used to rest early in the morning. It was also the room where the sect leader of the Black Sect had appeared. "Sect leader of the Black Sect, today is the third day. I don't know if you're in our sect. I've already made my decision." As soon as he entered the door, he immediately closed all the doors and windows and dismissed the disciples standing guard nearby. Only then did he ask in a low voice. "Sect leader Ku, the elixir I gave you earlier, is there any problem?" After a while, a cloud of black fog floated in the same place. Soon, the sect leader of the Black Sect appeared from the black fog. He was sitting on a chair. Although his expression could not be seen, it could be seen from his actions that he did not treat Ku Wanjun as an equal. Instead, he was very arrogant. "It's the real elixir. After Ku Jia consumed it, all his injuries were healed in less than half an hour," Ku Wanjun replied with a smile. He did not dare to be negligent. Although the person in front of him was a little strange and did not look like he was from a reputable sect and even came from a place like the outer region, there was no doubt that the other party's foundation was definitely much stronger than his. If they cooperated with such a sect, their Tianlang Mountain would be able to earn a lot of benefits. However, in Ku Wanjun's heart, he could faintly feel that something was wrong. It was just that the thought of avenging the three immortal kings and his son in the sect had already consumed his thoughts. A few days ago, everyone in the sect was against it. He was the only one who insisted on taking action. Now that he finally had a helper, he would definitely not let go of this opportunity. "Since I've proven my sincerity, does sect leader Ku want to cooperate with me?" The sect leader of the Black Sect laughed under the cover of the black mask. "Of course. Jiang Chen and Bai Shaoyun ruined the reputation of Tianlang Mountain in the east and north regions. They also injured the three immortal kings in my sect. If we don't take revenge, Tianlang Mountain will not be able to establish itself in the east regions in the future." Ku Wanjun clenched his fist and agreed directly. "Ha ha ha, I was right about you. With your help, either the Heaven's Secret Pavilion nor the immortal mountains in the outer seas can stop me from avenging my disciple. As for what I promised you, I won't go back on my words. We'll split the Heaven's Secret Pavilion's things 50-50. Seeing that Ku Wanjun agreed, the sect leader of the Black Sect laughed even more happily. "Sect leader of the Black Sect, although we're cooperating now, I still have a question to ask," Ku Wanjun asked. "Speak." The sect leader of the Black Sect flicked his sleeves. "I think that with the strength of the Black Sect, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with the immortal kings of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion and the Outer Seas. However, the previous pavilion leader of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion is the white-robed immortal king. He's Jiang Chen's master. If we do this, what if he attacks us? In the past 3 days he had been thinking about this problem. After all, the white-robed immortal king was one of the 3 immortal kings. His strength was unfathomable. He could even flatten Tianlang Mountain by himself. You don't need to worry about this. Do you think the white-robed immortal king will go against us because of Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun? The sect leader of the black sect seemed to have a card up his sleeve. I don't know. Ku Wanjun shook his head. Don't worry. As long as you listen to my orders, the white-robed immortal king doesn't need to worry at all. I can guarantee that he won't attack us. The sect leader of the black sect waved his hand and said in a deep voice. All right, I'll listen to you. Brother He, then tell me, what should we do first? Seeing that the sect leader was so confident, Ku Wanjun didn't continue to argue. His mind was filled with thoughts of how to regain the face of Tianlang Mountain. Chapter 1544. The first step is for you to wait here for my news. Black sect leader said in a deep voice. Also, remember to let your 3 injured immortal kings take my medicine. With their injuries, if they are not treated in time, they will be crippled in the future. I've already let them take it. Ku Wanjun nodded. As soon as Ku Jie took the medicine to recover, and there was no problem with his body, he had already asked the other 2 celestial kings to take the medicine. After 3 days of rest, the injuries of the 3 of them had all recovered, and they had returned to their previous cultivation. Okay, I'll contact you again. Hearing this, Black sect leader slowly disappeared from his seat. Black sect leader? Seeing the black fog slowly dissipating, Ku Wanjun felt that something was wrong. But now that he had left, even if he had some questions, he couldn't ask any more. He could only wait for Black sect leader to come again. Sect leader, many sects in the East region are at the gate. They seem to know about what happened in Immortal Ancient City and want to cause trouble. As soon as he went out, he saw Ku Jie rushing over. Who are they? Ku Wanjun temporarily put the matter of Black sect leader aside and asked with a frown. Wanshou sect, Green Qilin sect, and some other forces that we offended before. Ku Jie quickly said. Let's go and take a look. Ku Wanjun smiled coldly, without any nervousness on his face. If he hadn't gotten the elixir from the Black sect master, he would have been afraid when the 3 celestial kings in the sect were still seriously injured. But now that the cultivation of the 3 celestial kings had completely recovered, he didn't care about these forces as usual. Under Ku Jie's lead, Ku Wanjun led a group of disciples and walked to the gate. Outside the gate, the great elder was talking to the people gathered at the gate. To them, the 3 immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain were injured, which was the best opportunity for them to take revenge. In these years, Heavenly Gem Mountain used the many immortal kings in the sect to pressure the various forces in the East region. Almost every sect leader had suffered some grievances. Now that they heard that Heavenly Gem Mountain's 3 great immortal kings were actually seriously injured by the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries' true immortal king in Immortal Ancient Doubt City, the few powers decided to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to pay back all the grievances they had suffered previously. Sect leader. Seeing Ku Wanjun come out, the great elder took a step back. What's the meaning of this? You've gathered at the entrance of my Heavenly Gem Mountain. Do you want to try fighting? Ku Wanjun stood in front of them with his hands behind his back and asked calmly. Sect Master Ku, we heard that a few days ago, 3 of your sect's immortal kings suffered serious injuries from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's experts in Immortal Ancient Doubt City. Right now, their lives are in danger. As a power from the eastern region, we prepared to pay them a visit. Standing at the front was the leader of the Wanshou sect, Chou Wanli. After he finished speaking, many people behind him nodded in agreement. Are you here to visit us? Or are you here to seek revenge while our sect is weakened? Ku Wanjun didn't believe this nonsense. Sect Master Ku, what are you talking about? We are all forces of the Eastern region. How can we take advantage of the situation? We sincerely want to pay a visit. I wonder how the 3 immortal kings of your sect are doing? The sect master of the Green Shilin sect also spoke. Since that's the case, I thank you for your concern. However, the situation in our sect is not bad. The 3 immortal kings are not injured. Ku Wanjun glanced at them and said in a deep voice. No one really believed his words. They had received accurate information. Sect Master Ku, our eastern region is on the same side. If your Heavenly Gem Mountain is seriously injured, we won't make a move. Yes, Sect Master Ku. Don't you trust us? Another person spoke up. It sounded like a caring tone, but in fact, it was completely forcing Ku Wanjun to admit that the 3 immortal kings were injured. Since you don't believe me, Ku Jie, come out and let them see. Ku Wanjun looked at them coldly. He knew that if it wasn't for the Black Sect Master's elixir, today's matter wouldn't have been resolved. Yes, Sect Master! Ku Jie stepped out from behind Ku Wanjun. Looking at this familiar person, everyone was stunned. According to the information they received, Ku Jie was the one with the most serious injuries among the 3 immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain. When he left, he was even supported by Ku Yu. Everyone, do I look like I'm seriously injured? Ku Jie activated his mind, and immortal energy spread out from his body, instantly enveloping all the people who came to find trouble. What's going on? Impossible. He was clearly seriously injured by the immortal king of the Divine Mystery Pavilion and even fainted. Could it be that our information is wrong? Sensing the exhaustion, everyone was shocked and started discussing in low voices. They knew that according to the information they received, Ku Jie couldn't have recovered in just 4 to 5 days. However, his strength wasn't affected at all. There was only one reason, and that was that the information they received was fake. The people of Heavenly Gem Mountain weren't attacked by the Divine Mystery Pavilion in Immortal Ancient Doubt City. Everyone, you've all seen Ku Jie's condition. I really don't know where you got the information from. Ku Wanjun pretended to be helpless and said, Sect Master Ku, since the 3 immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain are fine, we'll go back. We'll meet again another day. The sect masters of the Thousand Beasts sect and Green Shilin sect cupped their hands and said to Ku Wanjun. The 3 immortal kings were injured. If they worked together, they still had a chance to get rid of Heavenly Gem Mountain. However, the 3 immortal kings were fine now. If they continued to stay here, they would be looking for trouble. We won't see you out. Ku Wanjun waved his hand and said indifferently. Soon, the people of these forces all left quickly. After a while, they all disappeared from the mountain. After they left, Ku Wanjun heaved a sigh of relief. Sect Master, this group of dogs wanted to find trouble with us while we were injured. It's all thanks to the Sect Master of the Black Sect, Ku Jie said as he retracted his immortal energy. Don't talk nonsense! Ku Wanjun frowned and interrupted. Ku Jie realized that he had said something wrong and quickly shut his mouth. Only he and the Sect Master knew about the cooperation with the Sect Master of the Black Sect. In the entire Heavenly Gem Mountain, even the Great Elder didn't know about it. Send a few people to follow them and find out what these forces are thinking. Now that we have the help of the Black Sect, if possible, we'll get rid of them all. This way, no force in the eastern region will dare to go against us. Ku Wanjun thought for a while and ordered Ku Jie when he returned to the mountain gate. Chapter 1545. Understood. Ku Jie nodded and pointed at a few trustworthy disciples. After receiving the order, the disciples immediately went down the mountain. In the blink of an eye, another week had passed. Jiangchen came out of seclusion again. He stabilized his cultivation at True Immortal Stage 3. Although the improvement wasn't much, it was still progress. As for Bai Xiaoyun, who was already an immortal king, she comprehended some of the contents of the Immortal Emperor's letter and improved her cultivation a bit. I just received news from the eastern region that a few sects joined forces to find trouble with Heavenly Gem Mountain. However, After arriving, they discovered that the 3 immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain weren't injured at all. After a nap, Bai Xiaoyun found Jiangchen. They weren't injured? Jiangchen was a bit surprised. Back in Immortal Ancient Doubt City, he had personally seen Bai Xiaoyun attack. That's right. I find it a little strange as well. The 3 of them were heavily injured by me. Not to mention whether or not their cultivation can recover, they should be bedridden for at least half a year. But now, less than 10 days have passed and they seem to be completely unaffected. Bai Xiaoyun stroked her hair. Maybe there are miraculous pills in Heavenly Gem Mountain. Jiangchen didn't think too much about it. Perhaps. Bai Xiaoyun nodded. That's right, eldest senior brother, why are you paying attention to the eastern region's situation? Jiangchen looked at Jinyu, who he had casually placed on the table, and asked. In a few days there will be a large-scale auction in the eastern region, so I paid attention to it. I didn't expect to find out about this situation, Bai Xiaoyun said honestly. Auction? Jiangchen's interest was piqued immediately. And you just became our pavilion lord, so you have to think of a way to get some funds. Otherwise, the sect's disciples will starve to death. Don't forget, there are still so many immortal kings waiting for you to support them. Bai Xiaoyun patted Jiangchen's shoulder as if she wanted to give him the heavy responsibility. Damn! Jiangchen slapped his head. Back then, he didn't really want to become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. However, since his fellow disciples insisted, he had no choice but to agree. Now, it seemed that not only did the pavilion master not provide him with any convenience, but he also brought a pile of responsibilities. Now, the entire burden of the sect was on him. If he, the pavilion master, did not work hard, then his fellow disciples in the pavilion would starve to death. That's why we have to attend this auction. Not only can we sell the Immortal Emperor's letter and true feather, we might even get some other treasures, Bai Xiaoyun said with a fiery gaze. Before going to Immortal Ancient Doubt City, he had never thought that the pavilion would have the support of 1 billion immortal jades. If he encountered people like those from Heavenly Gem Mountain again, let alone 1 billion, he might even be able to easily obtain 2 billion, or even 3 billion. You want to rob? Hearing Bai Xiaoyun's words, Jiangchen understood the meaning of his words. Of course, that depends on the situation. If there's a chance, we'll definitely make a move. Don't look at the remaining 1 billion immortal jades after paying off the Eternal River Bank. This 1 billion won't last for too long, Bai Xiaoyun said as he put his arm around Jiangchen's shoulder. Eldest senior brother, it's up to you. Jiangchen was a little helpless. Who asked him to be the pavilion master of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion? If not for this identity, 1 billion immortal jades would be enough for him to live comfortably for a long time. However, now he had to bear the daily expenses of a large family. Okay, then let's go take a look at the Eastern Region's auction, Bai Xiaoyun said without hesitation. Jiangchen agreed. In the blink of an eye, another 4 days passed. The day before the Eastern Region auction, Jiangchen and Bai Xiaoyun left Kunlun Immortal Mountain. This time, they did not bring the immortal kings from the overseas Immortal Mountain. After the two left, they rushed directly to the Eastern Region. There was a considerable distance between the northern and eastern regions. Even with the speed of the two, the sky was already safely dark by the time they arrived. After finding an inn not far from the auction, Jiangchen and Bai Xiaoyun went out and prepared to see the situation nearby. Where is the auction held? Jiangchen's understanding of the Eastern Region auction was limited to what he heard from Bai Xiaoyun. He knew nothing else. I'm not very sure. It seems to be not far ahead. Bai Xiaoyun walked around in a circle, then touched her head and said, Eldest senior brother, it seems that you are not very reliable. Jiangchen was a little embarrassed. I just heard the news, but since we are here, it's impossible that we can't even find the auction. However, if you plan to sell the Immortal Emperor's handwritten letter in your hand, you should go and see the organizer tonight. After all, the auction will start tomorrow. Bai Xiaoyun smiled. I'll go and have a look. Jiangchen nodded. Now that the Immortal Emperor's handwritten letter was useless in his hand, 2 rubbings were enough. After separating from Bai Xiaoyun, Jiang Chen walked forward. He could see that many people around him were going in the same direction as him, and at the end of his line of sight, he could see a towering building. Jiang Chen guessed that this should be the place where the auction was held. After walking in, Jiang Chen saw that it was a wooden pavilion. After entering through the door, he could see that the auction platform was built in the middle, and if he looked up, he could see that the entire pavilion was hollow, and only the area around the edge had floors. Now is not the time for the auction to start, let's go out. Before he could finish looking at the situation in the pavilion, someone came forward. After looking at the unfamiliar face, he pushed Jiang Chen, ready to push Jiang Chen out. I'm here to sell something. Jiang Chen frowned slightly. You? The man obviously looked down on Jiang Chen. He looked up and down at Jiang Chen. Seeing that Jiang Chen's clothes were not expensive, and there was no family or sect nameplate on him, he could not help but sneer. Little brother, this is the largest auction in the eastern region. What can you have? Hurry up and leave here. Is this how you treat a seller? Jiang Chen was naturally a little unhappy when he was given the cold shoulder as soon as he entered, but seeing that there were many people around, Jiang Chen adhered to the principle of not causing trouble, so he did not directly make a move. Hey, are you out of your mind? This is the biggest auction in the East Field. You don't look like you have anything good. If you really want to sell it, go out and buy a street stall. See if anyone is interested in your stuff. Seeing Jiang Chen still unwilling to leave, the man was irritated. You're right. You're right. Many people who were about to go and stopped to watch the fun. Those who could become sellers of this auction were undoubtedly some influential forces in the eastern region, or hidden powerful figures. At the very least, they were small families and forces who took out their treasures. Chapter 1546. They had never seen someone like Jiang Chen, who didn't have any family or sect nameplates, and looked like a rogue cultivator. Call out the person in charge of your auction. I have something to say to him. Jiang Chen was too lazy to waste his breath on these people. With the immortal emperor's letter in his hand, he could show disdain for all the sellers here. The man pointed directly at Jiang Chen's nose and shouted angrily in a low voice. Kid, do you not understand what I'm saying? Let me make it clear to you. You are not qualified to be a seller here, and the things in your hands are not qualified to be auctioned here. Hurry up and leave this place. Don't make me do it. What did you say? Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Almost at the moment when he raised his finger to point at him, Jiang Chen's hand reached out like an afterimage and grabbed his wrist tightly. With a little force, one could hear the sound of bones under heavy pressure. If Jiang Chen used a little more force, the man's wrist would be broken. Feeling the piercing pain, the man kept slapping Jiang Chen's arm and begged for mercy. It hurts, it hurts. Who's causing trouble outside? Hearing the noise at the door, a gray-haired, hunchbacked old man walked out with a cane and asked in a hoarse voice. Who are you? Jiang Chen turned his head to look at him. Seeing Jiang Chen holding the disciple's wrist, the old man said in a deep voice, I'm the second elder of the Qianhe sect. Little brother, why are you attacking the disciple of my sect? Did he offend you in any way? Although the old man's words were polite, his withered hands were hooked behind his back like an eagle's claws. If anything went wrong, he would immediately attack. As the great elder of the Qianhe sect and the organizer of the auction, he would not allow anyone to cause trouble here. So it's the great elder of the Qianhe sect. Jiang Chen smiled faintly. When he rushed over from Kunlun Mountain, he had heard Bai Xiaoyun introduce the forces here. The Thousand Harmony sect could be said to be the sect with the deepest heritage in the eastern region and had been established for the longest time. Although their strength was not much on the surface, no sect in the eastern region dared to provoke them. Even Tianlang Mountain, which was at its peak in the eastern region, could only get along peacefully with the Qianhe sect. That's me. I don't know who you are, but today isn't the day of the auction. It's just the time for the seller to deliver the goods. If you want to participate, please come back tomorrow morning. The great elder stared at Jiang Chen and said, I am a disciple of the 9th mountain of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. After I found out that there was an auction in the eastern domain, I came here to try my luck. However, the disciples of your sect seem to be looking down on me. They didn't even see what I was auctioning and wanted to kick me out." Jiangchen stared at the Thousand Harmony sect disciple in front of him and sneered. "Is that so?" The Great Elder frowned. "Great Elder, this person doesn't have any nameplates on him. He looks like a rogue cultivator and doesn't seem to have any valuable auction items. If we let him in, wouldn't it be a waste of our sect's time?" The disciple also felt very wronged. "How presumptuous! Since you're here, you're a guest of our Qianhe sect. Get out of here and go to the punishment department to receive 30 strikes of the rod." The Great Elder glared and shouted sternly. Even the people who were watching the show at the side were so scared that they took 2 steps back. The Great Elder of the Qianhe sect had always given them the impression that he was a very kind senior. This was the first time they had seen him get angry. "Great Elder, The disciple was a little surprised. "Get out of here!" The Great Elder glared at him. With so many people watching, if he insisted on kicking Jiangchen out, it would definitely affect the reputation of the Qianhe sect. Seeing that the Great Elder was really angry, the disciple didn't dare to say anything else and could only leave dejectedly. "Little brother, the disciples of our sect are a little ignorant. I hope you can forgive them. However, you just said that you're a disciple of the 9th mountain of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. I still don't know your name." After the disciple left, the Great Elder looked at Jiangchen with a smile. "Jiangchen," Jiangchen said indifferently. When this name was said, everyone present was a little shocked. When those sects went to Heavenly Gem Mountain, they found that the immortal king of Heavenly Gem Mountain was not injured. However, Jiangchen's name had spread to the eastern region in Immortal Ancient City. They all remembered this young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect and the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. However, Jiangchen was a real person now and not a figment of their imagination. What was going on at Heavenly Gem Mountain? "Little friend Jiangchen, please come in." The Great Elder's turbid eyes narrowed slightly. Then, he made a gesture of invitation and walked into the pavilion with his hands behind his back. After entering the pavilion, Jiangchen followed behind the Great Elder. He pushed open a wooden door and entered the hidden area of the pavilion. There were many disciples of the Thousand Harmony sect running around here. On the wooden tables on both sides of the corridor, there were all kinds of auction items. There were also many disciples standing guard here to protect the auction items. Although it was impossible for anyone to dare to snatch things in front of the Thousand Harmony sect, they still had to at least have a sense of safety. "Little friend, please come in." The Great Elder walked to the end of the corridor. In the room, there was only a table and a few stools. On the table, there was also a pot of steaming tea that looked like it had just been boiled. "Little friend, I don't know what you brought on this trip. Can you take it out and let me take a look? I'll set a price for you. If you agree, then leave it here and let our Thousand Harmony sect arrange the auction for you. If you don't agree, then take it back and find someone else." The Great Elder looked at Jiangchen again. "Okay." Jiangchen nodded and took out the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather and placed it on the table. "The 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's feather?" Looking at the item on the table, the Great Elder couldn't help but laugh. "Little friend, although the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's feather is precious, it really can't be taken out in our Thousand Harmony sect's auction. Take a closer look, Great Elder," Jiangchen said lightly. "It's just a feather. Our Thousand Harmony sect also has the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's feather. What's the difference?" The Great Elder reached out and picked up the feather, but before he could finish speaking, his expression changed. He realized that this feather was somewhat different from the ones in their Thousand Harmony sect. "This is the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather?" After looking at it carefully for a while, the Great Elder was a little surprised. He raised his head and looked at Jiangchen. "Yes, it's the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather." Jiangchen nodded and said, "I really didn't expect that an ordinary disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain like you would have such a treasure. Is it really like what the outside world said?" Are you the pavilion master of the divine secret pavilion? The great elder looked at Jiangchen with a deep gaze. Chapter 1547. It's just a false reputation. First elder, take a look at this feather. How much will it fetch at your auction? Jiangchen waved his hand. He didn't want to reveal his identity. Just saying that he was a disciple of the ninth mountain was enough. A rough estimate would be between 800 million and 2 billion immortal jades. However, how much it can be sold for depends on whether there is a buyer who urgently needs this item. If you encounter what you want, even 2 billion immortal jades is possible. The first elder touched the feather and confirmed that it was indeed a 10,000-mile cloud rock's true feather. That's what I thought. Jiangchen nodded. The price offered by the first elder was the same as what he had expected. In Jiangchen's opinion, this genuine feather of the cloud rock of 10,000 miles was worth 2 billion immortal jades at most. Any higher and it wouldn't be worth it. Are you selling it? The first elder put down the feather. Yes, Jiangchen said. All right, then leave it with me for now. I'll arrange it for you later. However, there's something I need to make clear in advance. We'll charge a 10% handling fee for everything sold at our Thousand Harmony Sex auction. The first elder took out an exquisite wooden box from under the table and carefully placed the feather inside. How shady! Jiangchen's expression immediately fell. This is a rule in the industry. Any auction house will charge a higher processing fee than us. If we do charity business for free, I'm afraid that all the disciples of our Thousand Harmony sect will starve to death. The great elder laughed hoarsely. First elder, you can take the feather. I have something else here that I'll have to trouble you to estimate its price. Jiangchen took out the Immortal Emperor's letter. Oh? What is this? The first elder frowned after seeing the tattered book in Jiangchen's hand. The Immortal Emperor's letter, Jiangchen said. What? The Immortal Emperor's letter? The great elder seemed to have heard some shocking news. He stood up abruptly without even using his walking stick. I obtained it in Immortal Ancient Doubt City. It is definitely the real thing, but with my cultivation, I cannot comprehend the contents inside. That is why I want to sell it and earn a bit of profit. Jiangchen handed over the Immortal Emperor's personal letter and said, It really is something left behind by an immortal emperor. The great elder's fingers trembled as he picked up the letter. After flipping through 2 pages, he couldn't help but take a deep breath and speak in a trembling voice. Great elder, this shouldn't be fake, right? Jiangchen asked with a smile. No, of course not. I can be sure that this is something left behind by an immortal emperor. Little friend, how much do you want to sell it for? The Grand Elder slowly sat down on the chair and raised his head to look at Jiangchen. I got it for 3 billion, so I'll sell it for at least 5 billion. This way, after deducting your Qianhe handling fee, I can still make a small profit. Jiangchen did not hesitate. No problem. However, little friend, there is something I want to discuss with you. The great elder immediately agreed and asked at the same time. Please ask? Jiangchen said. If 5 billion can't be sold, then our Qianhe sect will accept the price of 3 billion without any handling fee. What do you think? The great elder swallowed his saliva. Haha, great elder really is joking. If news of an immortal emperor's letter were to spread, there would be countless experts fighting over it. How could it not be sold? Hearing this, Jiangchen couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Of course I know. I just don't know if little friend can let our Qianhe sect profit from this. These words made the great elder feel a bit ashamed. Indeed, for an immortal emperor's letter, not to mention 5 billion, even if it was sold for 3 billion, there would still be people who would want it. Jiangchen pondered for a bit before agreeing. Okay, since the great elder has said so, if I don't agree, then I wouldn't be giving your Qianhe sect any face. Little friend Jiangchen, from now on, you will be our Qianhe sect's esteemed guest. Whether or not the immortal emperor's letter falls into our hands, from today onwards, we will definitely be friends. Seeing Jiangchen agree, the great elder stood up from his chair and extended his withered hand towards Jiangchen. Okay. Jiangchen also extended his hand and shook it. Xin Yu and the immortal emperor's letter were left behind. Jiangchen got the 500 million immortal jade note as a deposit. He drank some tea and chatted with the grand elder for a while. Then he left with the note. When it was time for the letter and feather to be auctioned, a Qianhe sect disciple would come to inform him. After returning to the inn, Jiangchen explained the situation to Bai Xiaoyun. He didn't think that Bai Xiaoyun's first reaction would be to extend his hand towards Jiangchen. What's wrong? Seeing his action, Jiangchen asked in astonishment. Of course it's the promissory note. The deposit is 400 million immortal jade. It can be used for our Heaven's Secret Pavilion's expenses for the next half a year. You just became the pavilion lord, so you might not understand. It's safer to leave this money with me. Bai Xiaoyun raised his brows at Jiangchen. Why do I feel like you're trying to cheat me of my money? Jiangchen immediately became vigilant. How could that be? Little junior brother, if I dared to cheat you of your money, Master would definitely skin me alive. Bai Xiaoyun waved his hand. Jiangchen took out the promissory note and gave it to Bai Xiaoyun. Okay, for Master's sake, I'll believe you. That's my little junior brother. Bai Xiaoyun immediately put the promissory note into his pocket and patted it. After making sure it wouldn't be thrown away, he laughed. Eldest senior brother, when I came back, I suddenly thought that Heavenly Gem Mountain, as a sect in the eastern region, would also participate in this auction. We can take advantage of this opportunity to inquire about their situation, and see if they've really recovered or if it's just a trick from their sect. Jiangchen poured a cup of water and took a sip. To tell you the truth, I also thought of that. When it came to serious matters, Bai Xiaoyun's expression became serious, like an immortal king. But what I'm more worried about is that the distinguished guest from the Eternal River Bank will come again. If he provokes people from the eastern region this time, are you still going to protect him? This? Jiangchen slapped his thigh. He had completely forgotten about Wanqing. With his father's personality, he might really come here to try his luck. The eastern region was not like immortal ancient doubtful city. Almost all the sect experts in the eastern region were gathered here. If he provoked trouble, with just him and Bai Xiaoyun, they might not be able to protect him. Now that the money you owe the Eternal River Bank will be paid off soon, there's no need to protect their distinguished guest. If that person is bent on courting death, let's not make a move to avoid causing trouble for ourselves. Seeing Jiangchen hesitate, Bai Xiaofei quickly advised. Chapter 1548. Ku Jie's greeting of sect master was enough to prove that his plan had succeeded. The pills that were sent out earlier were not ordinary pills, but the black sect's most precious pills. According to the sect's rules, only the sect master and the elders were qualified to take them when they were on the verge of death. The reason why they gave them to Tianlang Mountain was to set up a trap. However, Ku Wanjun and Ku Jie did not realize this. They firmly believed that the black sect master had joined forces with them because his disciples were killed by Jiangchen. They were also immersed in the fantasy of Tianlang Mountain becoming the top sect in the eastern region with the support of the black sect master. The next day, after Jiangchen woke up, he continued to participate in the auction with Bai Xiaoyun. However, there was still nothing in the auction that attracted his attention. Jiangchen even wanted to leave immediately and come back to take a look when the Heaven and Earth handwritten letter was sold. Jiangchen felt bored, but at this moment, someone was staring at him. In the private room, Ku Wanjun and Ku Jie's eyes were not on the auction stage. Instead, they had been waiting for the private room on the left. Although they could not see the situation inside from the outside, they knew that Jiangchen and Bai Xiaoyun were inside. Ku Jie gritted his teeth and said, "After the auction ends today, send 2 disciples to follow him. Don't let him leave the eastern region easily. Once he returns to Kunlun Celestial Mountain in the northern region, we can't do anything even with the help of the Black Sect Master." He knew that if they could get rid of Jiangchen, Tianlang Mountain's name would instantly spread. After all, There were very few sects in the great thousand world that could go against the divine secret pavilion and win. Understood, I'll arrange it now. Kujia nodded. After receiving Ku Wanjun's order, he immediately pushed the door open and left the private room. However, no one could see that the black threads in Kujia's eyes had become denser. They were like vines that climbed on his eyeballs as if they were going to devour his entire eyeballs. Jiangqin, oh Jiangqin, no matter if you're the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion or some alliance master of the Immortal Mountain overseas, you're destined to have a bad ending after offending my Tianlang Mountain. Ku Wanjun sneered as he muttered to himself. From the start, he did not put Jiang Chen's identity in his eyes. The auction continued. Jiang Chen sat in a very comfortable position on the chair. The second day's auction was indeed better than yesterday's, but it was still not worth bidding for. Jiang Chen closed his eyes and rested. Occasionally, he would take a look. Of course, most of the time, he would glance down to see if Wanqing was here. Bai Xiaoyun wasn't wrong. If his father dared to snatch the auction items here, then he wouldn't be able to protect him at all. He might even be implicated. However, as the saying goes, the more you fear something, the more likely it will happen. I bid 300 million immortal jade. A very familiar voice rang out in the auction hall. When this voice appeared, all of Jiang Chen's sleepiness disappeared instantly. He stood up and looked down. Among the crowd, a man in a long robe stood up and pointed to the auction item on the stage. The auction item on the stage was a snow lotus. It seemed to be quite old, and had just been picked. Father! Jiang Chen couldn't help but shake his head. Isn't this the distinguished guest of the Eternal River Bank? Bai Xiaoyun also heard this familiar voice. She followed Jiang Chen's gaze and saw Wanqing standing among the crowd. It's him. Jiang Chen nodded helplessly. He really appeared here. I just don't know if he will make a move. Little junior brother, this time you have to listen to my advice. This person's cultivation is only around the Immortal Monarch level. Once he makes a move, not to mention the experts of the Eastern Domain, even the people of the Thousand Harmony sect won't let him off. With our strength, it's not enough to fight against the Thousand Harmony sect. Bai Xiaoyun put one hand on Jiang Chen's shoulder and reminded him faintly. I know. Jiang Chen didn't know what to say. He could only nod and agree. It's good that you understand. Hearing Jiang Chen's agreement, Bai Xiaoyun relaxed. He looked at Wanqing and suddenly frowned. It's just that this person is a bit strange. He can take out so many immortal jade, but he's only at the Immortal Monarch level. Could it be that there's a big force behind him? Jiang Chen rolled his eyes. He didn't want to explain. Previously, he had borrowed 3 billion from the Eternal River Bank in his name to buy the Immortal Emperor's letter. Now that he had bought the Snow Lotus for 300 million immortal jade, and he had taken it from the Eternal River Bank, he would have to repay the debt in the end. Jiang Chen decided that after selling the Immortal Emperor's letter, he would immediately look for Zhang Jiu to change the money. He would also tell the Eternal River Bank that if Wanqing borrowed money in his name again, no matter how much he took, he wouldn't care anymore. If his father only ate and drank, it would be fine. However, his father obviously treated him as a fool and didn't restrain his actions at all. Even if he was considered rich now, every time he borrowed, it would be hundreds of millions or billions of immortal jade. No sect would be able to afford it, let alone him. TSK, this person's cultivation is only at the Immortal Monarch level. If we can get the Snow Lotus in his hands, we can sell it for 200 million and make a profit. While Jiang Chen was thinking, Bai Xiaoyun had a devious idea. Dishi Xiang, what do you want to do? Jiang Chen hurriedly asked. Of course it's to find a way to earn living expenses for our Divine Secrets Pavilion. Look, last time we saved his life from Tianlang Mountain. He was even willing to hand over the 800 million immortal feather and 3 billion immortal emperor's letter. Today, it shouldn't be a problem to ask him for the 300 million Snow Lotus, right? Bai Xiaoyun rubbed her chin. Her eyes gradually became clear. It was as if she had found a way to become rich. I think we should forget about it. Didn't you say that he might have some big power behind him? We've already profited. If we force him, we might get into trouble. Hearing Bai Xian's words, Jiang Chen's jaw almost dropped. His father treated him as a fool, and Bai Xiaoyan actually treated his father as a fool. Tisk, you're right. My considerations were too simple. Bai Xiaoyan waved her hand and dismissed the idea. While the two were talking, Wan Qing finally bought the snow lotus at the price of 300 million immortal jade. The Thousand Harmony sect disciple brought the snow lotus over, and Wan Qing also handed over the 300 million immortal jade promissory note. After getting the box, Wan Qing didn't stop and immediately left. It's good that he left. Seeing his father leave the pavilion, Jiang Chen heaved a sigh of relief. This proved that his father probably thought that the snow lotus had just arrived and would leave after bidding for it. He wouldn't do anything to anyone else. Chapter 1549. Outside the attic. After Wan Qing got the snow lotus, he prepared to leave immediately. Just as Jiang Chen thought, he came here because he heard from the Ganges Bank that there was such a medicinal herb in the eastern region auction. The last time in Immortal Ancient's Doubt City, although he'd killed Mystic 4 and heavily injured the black-robed man, he'd also suffered quite a bit of injuries. After nearly 10 days of adjustment, he still did not have any results, so he borrowed another 500 million immortal jade from the Ganges Bank to buy the snow lotus to treat his injuries. The Ganges Bank was also very happy. They knew that Jiang Chen would definitely repay the money Wan Qing borrowed, so they were not worried at all. Damn it, I lost 3 billion for nothing. After my injuries recover, I will find a chance to earn it back. After opening the box and seeing that it was indeed a fresh 1,000-year-old snow lotus, Wan Qing quickly left with the box. However, just as he was about to leave the town, a cloud of black fog suddenly blocked his way. Who is it? Wan Qing frowned slightly. He could feel that there was something wrong with the black fog, so he took 2 steps back and tightly held the box in his hand. Wan Qing looked ahead, ready to run at any time. If my information is correct, the one who seriously injured my disciple should be you, right? In the black fog, the Black Sect Master slowly appeared, staring at Wan Qing with a pair of gloomy eyes. His palms were like eagle claws. What disciple? You've got the wrong person. I don't know you at all. Wan Qing shook his head. Outside Immortal Ancient City, someone with the dark attribute. After you seriously injured them, the Pavilion Master of the Divine Mystery Pavilion killed him. The Black Sect Master walked forward step by step. With his cultivation, he could almost kill Wan Qing in an instant. I injured him. How do you want to settle it? Do you want the thing in my hand or do you want me to apologize? Hearing this, Wan Qing lost his temper. I don't want your thing, and I don't need you to apologize to me. I just need you to come with me. After saying this, the Black Sect Master's figure swept past like a black wind. When he appeared again, he was already behind Wan Qing. With one hand he grabbed the back of Wan Qing's neck. In this world, those who dared to hurt my disciple have never lived. Come with me, I will cut off all your limbs and hang them above the sect as a sacrifice to my disciple. The sinister voice of the Black Sect's leader rang out. I was the one who injured him. However, the person who killed him was the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. I am not related to them at all. If you want to look for them, you should not look for me. Sensing that his life was in the hands of another person, Wan Qing could not help but shiver. Don't worry, you can't run away, and they can't run away either. It's just a matter of time. If you can hold on, you might be able to accompany them. The Black Sect Patriarch let go of his hand and prepared to grab Wan Qing's arm. But the moment he let go, Wan Qing's figure suddenly disappeared. You dog, you think you can escape from me? Looking at the figure that flashed out, the leader of the Black Sect was a little surprised, but he was not worried. Instead, he sneered. In the auction house. Originally, seeing that Wan Qing had left, Jiang Chen was about to close his eyes and sleep again. However, suddenly, he sensed a very familiar fluctuation. Oh no, Dad is in danger. Jiang Chen's sleepy eyes suddenly brightened. He was very familiar with this aura. It was coming from his father. What's wrong? Seeing that Jiang Chen suddenly sat up, Bai Xiaoyun turned her head and asked. Senior brother, I have to go out for a while. Jiang Chen didn't have time to explain. He pushed the door open and left immediately after saying that. He flew out of the pavilion quickly. Behind him, Bai Xiaoyun followed closely. The two disciples, who were arranged by Ku Jie to keep an eye on Jiang Chen, looked at each other and quickly followed. Their task was to keep an eye on him. If they lost him, they could not bear the consequences. What's going on? The grand elder of the Qianhe school was sitting in the highest box, watching the auction. When he saw Jiang Chen fly out of the box, the benevolent look on his face disappeared immediately. He asked the disciple next to him in a low voice. What's going on? Great elder, maybe he left because of something urgent. The disciple did not know what had happened. No, there must be a problem. The great elder shook his head. The last time he had seen Jiang Chen, he had found him to be very calm. Even in front of him, Jiang Chen hadn't shown any abnormal behavior. However, at that moment, he had suddenly left in such a hurry. This wasn't the Jiang Chen he knew. Immediately summoned the protectors in the sect. Let them sense my aura and come find me. The more the great elder thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. After he gave the order, he turned and opened the door of the box. In the face of a young man who had the immortal emperor's book, he could not ignore him. This was also a good opportunity for him to build a good relationship with Jiang Chen. If he could help Jiang Chen, he might leave a good impression of the Qianhe sect. What's going on? Seeing the great elder leave, the two disciples of the Qianhe sect in the box looked at each other. During the auction, people would often leave quickly. This was a very normal thing, and there was no need to pay attention to it. Not to mention, the great elder usually acted calmly. Even if all the forces in the eastern region united against the Qianhe sect, the great elder's expression would not change. However, just 2 or 3 people leaving the auction had caused the great elder to act like this. Since the great elder said so, he must have his reasons. Let's do as the great elder said. Otherwise, if we delay things, either of us can bear the responsibility. The other disciple said quickly. Let's go! The first disciple nodded. The two of them immediately left the box. After walking out of the pavilion, Jiang Chen stood in place and sensed Wan Cheng's aura. When he found that his father was only a few hundred meters away from him, he immediately urged the immortal qi in his body to rush in his father's direction. Junior brother, what happened? Bai Xiaoyun followed closely behind Jiang Chen and asked in astonishment. That distinguished guest of the Ganges river bank is in trouble again. Jiang Chen did not know how to explain Wan Cheng's identity, but he did not have time to care about this now. Didn't I tell you not to care about this person's matters? Bai Xiaoyun frowned. I can't care so much now. This person must not have any accidents. I have to protect his life. Jiang Chen's eyes were firm as he rushed in the direction of Wan Cheng's aura. Seeing Jiang Chen's determination, Bai Xiaoyun sighed and did not say anything else. Chapter 1550. Inside a bamboo forest. Wan Cheng stopped, gasping for breath. Due to his injuries, he couldn't fully exert his strength. Behind him was a real immortal king. No matter what, it was impossible for him to escape from this person. No one has ever been able to escape from my hands. The moment Wan Cheng stopped, the black fog transformed by the Black Sect master followed him. He stepped out of the black fog and looked at Wan Cheng, who was gasping for breath, and sneered. Let's talk nicely. Wan Cheng waved his hand. I wanted to take you back to the sect to torture you and let you live for a few more days, but it seems that you don't agree. Then I'll stand here and kill you. A mere immortal king dares to attack my disciple. Remember to stay away from me in your next life. Otherwise, I'll kill you every time I see you. The Black Sect master raised his hand, and a black sword completely transformed from fog appeared in his hand. He raised the black sword and stabbed it toward Wan Cheng's head. Seeing the tip of the sword, Wan Cheng closed his eyes. He knew that no one could save him this time, and no one could rush over in such a short time. Stop! Suddenly, a loud shout came. At the same time, a majestic immortal chi cut through the air and hit the Black Sect Master's long sword hard. This caused the attack that was aimed at Wan Cheng's head to deviate. Although it didn't penetrate his head, he was still hit by the long sword. Wan Cheng's vision turned black. He didn't realize what had happened and fainted. Seeing Wan Cheng's body fall to the ground, the Black Sect Master didn't care whether he was dead or alive. Instead, he focused on the people who had caught up. He could clearly sense the existence of an immortal king. A moment later, Jiang Chen landed in the bamboo forest. Bai Xiaoyun arrived almost at the same time. Plop! The Black Sect Master raised his foot and kicked Wan Cheng more than 10 meters away. He didn't stop until he hit the bamboo. The Black Sect Master looked at Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun and asked indifferently, "Who are you? How dare you come and disturb my business?" Jiang Chen from the Divine Secret Pavilion. Upon witnessing that Wan Cheng had fainted, Jiang Chen felt at ease and announced his name. "Oh, so you are the people who killed my disciple. It seems that my luck today is not bad. Since you have come here, I will take action and get rid of you. It will save me some trouble in the future." The Black Gate sect leader was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. "Disciple?" Jiang Chen frowned slightly. However, he quickly recalled the person Bai Xiaoyun killed in Immortal Ancient Stout City. "Little junior brother, be careful. This person is also an immortal king, and he is much stronger than me. With our strength, I'm afraid that we won't be a match for him." Bai Xiaoyun took in a deep breath, and the aura of an immortal king was instantly released. "Can you get those immortal kings from the overseas immortal mountains to come over and help?" Jiang Chen asked. "With them here, it won't be a problem to get rid of this person, but I'm afraid it's too late to call for help now. I'll hold him back later. You take that person from the eternal river bank and leave." With a thought, the long sword appeared in Bai Xiaoyun's hand again. "Thank you, eldest senior brother." Jiang Chen didn't say anything else and directly agreed. "From the looks of it, you guys seem to be determined to obtain it. However, little brother, although you and I are both immortal kings, there is a huge gap between immortal kings. Could it be that the white-robed immortal king didn't tell you guys about it?" The sect leader of the Black Sect glanced at Bai Xiaoyun. "Since you know my master's name, then hurry up and get lost." Bai Xiaoyun snorted coldly. "Haha, the white-robed immortal king is not strong enough to make me afraid. On the other hand, your first reaction when you see me is not to run away, but to try to fight me. Your courage is commendable." The Black Gate sect leader shook his head and laughed. "Stop talking nonsense." Jiang Chen furrowed his brow, while a vigorous dark energy surged into his body. This was the great dark sky that he had learned in the Black God sect. Now that he was facing an opponent with the same dark attribute, Jiang Chen wanted to test the power of this immortal technique. After all, in the Black God sect, the Black God sect leader had boasted about it to the skies. "Great dark sky?" Seeing the dark attribute immortal chi surging out of Jiang Chen's body, the Black Gate sect leader was a little surprised. "You recognize this technique?" Jiang Chen was also very surprised. This great dark sky was the signature immortal technique of the Black God sect. If he remembered correctly, the Black God sect leader had said that there weren't many people in the Black God sect who were qualified to cultivate this immortal technique. "Haha, you've surprised me. Although I don't know where you learned the great dark sky from, I can't let you live," the Black Gate sect leader shouted coldly. The moment he finished speaking, he rushed towards Jiang Chen. That dark attribute energy was several times more powerful than Jiang Chen's. "With me here, you can't hurt junior brother." Seeing this, Bai Xiaoyun raised the long sword in her hand and immediately went forward. Bang! A sword chi was swung out and collided with the dark energy of the Black God sect leader. There was a loud noise. The Black God sect leader took 2 steps back. Bai Xiaoyun, on the other hand, only managed to stabilize her body with the help of Jiang Chen. It was just the first collision, but Bai Xiaoyun felt the blood and qi in her body surging. Her body seemed to be unable to withstand such a powerful force. Although he and the Black God sect leader were both immortal kings, there was indeed a gap in strength between immortal kings. But even so, if the Black Gate sect leader wanted to kill Bai Xiaoyun, it was definitely not something that could be done in 1 or 2 moves. Not bad, to be able to block one of my attacks, you should be proud. After taking a few steps back and stopping, the Black Gate sect leader looked at Bai Xiaoyun and said, "An immortal king who is not even 30 years old. If you can become my disciple, I will definitely nurture you well. Unfortunately, you are a subordinate of the white-robed immortal king. Today, I can only bear the pain of killing you." After taking a few deep breaths, Bai Xiaoyun felt a little better and said with gritted teeth, "Don't fart. I was born as a member of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, and I will die as a ghost of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. If you want to take me back, then take my corpse back. What a bastard. Since you want to die, then I will satisfy you." The Black Gate sect leader was somewhat angry. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this. His pitch-black eyes gradually surged with a scarlet color, and killing intent uncontrollably spread out. On the pitch-black long sword in his hand, a gloomy aura gradually attached to it. At the same time, the surrounding bamboo began to wither, and even the grass on the ground seemed to be sucked dry of their vitality. At a speed visible to the naked eye, they withered and fell. Chapter 1551. Be careful. Pay attention to your safety and find an opportunity to take him away. I'll block him here. Although I'm not his opponent, it won't be easy for him to kill me. It's just that I'm afraid I'll have to rest for a while. Seeing the sect master of the Black Sect acting so strangely, Bai Xiaoyun couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He tightly gripped the sword in his hand and reminded Jiangqin in a low voice, "Eldest senior brother, I'll send him to a safe place and immediately come back to help you." Jiangqin felt extremely guilty in his heart. This was originally Wan Cheng's problem, but now Bai Xiaoyun had to take care of it. Although Jiangqin didn't want to see Bai Xiaoyun like this, Wan Cheng was his father. He couldn't just leave his father behind and run away. "Let's talk about these things when you can come back." Bai Xiaoyun smiled faintly. When the white-robed immortal king left, he had personally instructed him to take care of Jiang Chen's safety. Therefore, he was not only carrying out Jiang Chen's orders, but also completing the task given to him by his master. "All right." Jiang Chen nodded heavily. "Two little things, you still want to take him away from here. I'll let you see what the true difference in strength is. In front of me, no matter what tricks you use, it's useless." The sect master of the Black Sect clearly heard the conversation between Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun. When he raised his sword, Jiang Chen's heart sank. He clearly felt as if he was in a quagmire. Not only did he move, but even his breathing became somewhat rough. Enchantment. Bai Xiaoyun struggled to raise his sword. However, just by doing this, he felt his arm become abnormally sore. Moreover, his speed was extremely slow. No matter how much strength he used, it was useless. If it was like this when he raised his sword, there was no need to talk about fighting the person in front of him. "Eldest senior brother, it seems that our plan has failed," Jiang Chen said helplessly with a shrug of his shoulders. "In the past, Master would always suddenly appear in times of danger and save us," Bai Xiaoyun said while gasping for breath. "I still don't know where he is now. I'm afraid he won't be able to rush over." Jiang Chen sighed. Since he knew that it was useless, there was no need to struggle anymore. "Go accompany my disciple in hell." Seeing that Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun were restricted by his enchantment, the Black Sect master sneered. He gently waved his sword, and an imposing aura rushed towards the two people. Inside the barrier, even moving was a problem, let alone dodging. So when they saw the Qi Jin gradually expanding in front of them, Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyun both gave up resisting. Apart from resisting, there seemed to be no better way. "This is the territory of my Thousand Harmony sect. No one is allowed to behave atrociously here. At this critical moment, an old voice suddenly sounded, followed by a warm breeze. Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyun suddenly felt the original stalemate of the enchantment instantly break. Just as the chief force was about to reach him, it was too late to dodge. Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyun did not communicate with each other. They circulated their immortal qi and gathered it on the long sword in the latter's hand in an extremely short period of time. Rip! With a swing of the sword, the qi gene of the Black Sect master was cut off. Phew, that was close. Feeling the threat disappear, Jiang Chun could not help but take a deep breath. If he had been a second slower, he might have really died. Who is it? The Black Sect master also felt that his enchantment had disappeared. He frowned and looked in the direction of the voice. The great elder of the Thousand Harmony sect. The old voice sounded again. Immediately after, an old figure slowly walked into the bamboo forest. The moment he appeared, a few more breezes blew past. A few people with the same immortal king aura appeared and surrounded the Black Sect master. Thousand Harmony sect, how dare you interfere in my affairs? The Black Sect master narrowed his eyes slightly. The fist hidden in his black sleeves quietly clenched. Oh? What you said is interesting. This is the place where my Thousand Harmony sect holds the auction. It is also a small town within my Thousand Harmony sect's sphere of influence. I can't control you if you make a move in the outside world, but if you want to hurt people in my Thousand Harmony sect, you have to ask me and my protectors first. The Great Elder smiled faintly. Ha! After the Great Elder finished speaking, the protectors surrounding him all shouted in a low voice. Not bad at all. The Black Sect master immediately laughed out loud. The Great Elder put his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, Leave this place quickly. If you dare to have any thoughts of hurting people again, I don't care what force you are from or what cultivation you have. I will definitely not let you leave. If you don't believe me, feel free to try. You're lucky today, but be careful. The Thousand Harmony sect can protect you for a while, but they can't protect you for a lifetime. Don't let me catch you, or you won't even have the chance to notice me. Looking at the protectors around him, the Black Sect master knew that he wouldn't be able to succeed today. After saying these harsh words, black fog rose around his body. Then, his entire aura slowly dissipated. Seeing him leave, Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyun both heaved a sigh of relief. After relaxing, Jiang Chun quickly walked to the Great Elder, cupped his hands, and said respectfully, Thank you, Great Elder, for saving us. It's no problem. Not to mention you, even if an ordinary person was here, I would still help. That person seems to have just obtained the snow lotus from the auction, right? The Great Elder laughed and waved his hand, then pointed to Wan Cheng. Yes. Jiang Chun immediately returned to Wan Cheng's side. Sensing that Wan Cheng was only unconscious and didn't suffer any serious injuries, he quickly replied. I see that you have suffered a lot of shock. You don't have to participate in today's auction. Why don't you come with me for some tea and rest? What do you think? The Great Elder waved his hand, and several protectors went to help Wan Cheng up. No problem. Jiang Chun didn't refuse. He and Bai Xiaoyun followed the Great Elder to the center of the town. Pushing open the door of a courtyard, the Great Elder slowly walked in. Does Great Elder usually live here? Jiang Chun followed behind him, looking at the lush scene in the courtyard and asked. Occasionally, I come here to stay for a while, but most of the time, I stay in the sect. The Great Elder replied faintly. Great Elder, I hope you can take care of that man. Although he isn't injured, he has fainted. I'm afraid he will have to stay here for a few days. Jiang Chun said hurriedly when he saw Wan Cheng being carried to a nearby room by several law enforcers. Just let him stay here. I will naturally protect his safety. However, if he leaves this place, if he leaves the eastern region, it will be out of my control if there are any dangers. The First Elder waved his hand and said, Yes, of course. Jiang Chun agreed. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.